Oh, is that tonight?
You can stay up there after.
It is 6. All right, seeing that it is 6:30 p.m., I'd like to call the Town of Belgrade's Board of Select Persons, August 2, 2022 meeting to order. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States. One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, welcome, everybody. All right, so the first part of the meeting, so what I'll preface everything by saying is that anyone speaking, we have to use our big voices, and that includes me. And any members in the audience, just identify yourself before you speak, because Mary's doing our minutes from watching the video, and she's having a little trouble being able to hear everybody and know who's here. So just let us know who you are before you speak. The first part of the meeting is public comment, and that's the portion of the meeting where anybody who has something to say that may not be covered on this evening's agenda is welcome to bring that to the town's attention. So anyone who has something they'd like us to speak on? Seeing none, we're going to move right on. All right, the first part of the business, old business, is a review of the July 20, 2022 executive session meeting minutes. I'll take a motion to open that item.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Carol, seconded by Barbara. That was open for discussion. So the select board convened at 6:05 p.m. and entered executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA subsection 405, subsection 6, subsection A. The select board re-entered the regular board meeting at, what time was
There
that?
was no time.
I'll make 7:02.
7:02.
Executive session 6:05 to 7:03. So 7:03. And the decision was that the board extended an offer to a candidate for the town manager position, and the select board adjourned at 7:05 p.m. What's up? 7:03 p.m. We're probably here till 7:05, but. Oh, all right, does anybody have anything on those? Seeing none. Barbara?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses. Those are approved. Okay, next up, we have amendments to the Town of Belgrade's Commercial Development Review. Ordinance. I'll take a motion to open that item. Moved by Carol and seconded by Barbara. That item is open for discussion. Okay, I just want to extend my appreciation of the planning board for holding another meeting in between our last meeting and this meeting so that we could address some of those concerns. I appreciate it. I know you all have busy, crazy schedules too. And apparently none of us like to be
Right.
So I just wanted to make sure that to extend that right out of the gate, because that's.
Thank you, Lily.
So, and it looks sort of like what you did was you went down through each of Mr. Bucksbaum's concerns
Correct.
in order, so those pages, so do we want to go down through each item? Do you want to read that, or?
I'll be happy to assist wherever I can. Just for everybody's awareness, if you haven't had a chance to review the items that we submitted, we did try to rely on things such as state statutes where we could and standards where we could. Then other instances, we rely on good old fashioned negotiations and compromise. I just want to make sure you were aware of those things. So that
I
was,
noticed a couple of those, like, so through compromise.
Right,
To
right.
here.
Precisely.
So do we want to read down through, like, what's the best way for everyone to sort of get all the information? All
It's a lot to read.
right, it
Yeah, I would
is.
say, I don't know if you need to read that through. I mean, the ordinance is what it is. The planning board has done basically what we've asked them to do, and then gone through and made notes on it. I'm not going to second guess the planning board. and decide if they want it or if they don't want it.
So I do feel like that we need to have some sort of a public record of what was done. So we're not gonna have a public record because this is not gonna go forward. with anything.
What if we just go
That's what,
1, 2, 3, just the main topic and,
well, and the response for the topic.
okay,
I think that we probably do need to have those pieces in there.
But these are just already from, there's nothing that's changed. You haven't changed anything in the ordinance.
it's
Correct.
just an
So
explanation.
these
What
are
we're
just,
explaining.
these are just an explanation to answer the concerns that Steve Buxbaum
We
brought
probably
up.
should have those in the records. Maybe we could just enter this document
Well, there also is his document that's included in our packet as well.
in our packet, but not the public record packet.
Correct.
Public record, it went out. through-
It's on.
Oh, it is,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, yeah, everything's
Yeah, it's in the
together.
packet, so that's in the public record.
Won't there be a public hearing on this anyways?
There was a public hearing.
We had the public, what's it called, public informational session or meeting. And then if we go forward, we would, if you select or say yes, go forward with this timeline that you've presented so far, that we do have time to have our public hearing. Where at that point, right, it would be, it'd be right? It would just be, here's what we're providing to the public to decide if they want to vote yes or no.
So that would be after August. The board considers the town attorney's suggestions.
Yes,
And amendments.
because that's the very, very first thing, right? You want to make sure it goes to the town's attorney.
Yes. Steve?
I'd like to suggest that, I have a few comments on the planning board's comments on my comments. If you would like to set aside a few minutes, I'll go through those.
I'd be happy to. This is your meeting as much as it is ours.
Okay. Well, going down the planning board memo, the first item, setbacks from residential dwellings, is urging the ordinance should say a setback of 250 feet from abutting residential structures. And the planning board directs you to page 10. And it's true in the setback section, which is 5B on page 10. 5B says solar modules may not be located less than 250 feet from existing residential dwelling units. And I have no problem with that. However, further down in the last paragraph on page 10, in visual screening requirements, 7B, 2, minimum vegetative screening dimensions. And it says it shall be 250 feet in depth along the common property line from the existing dwelling unit. So what they have called for is to create a circle 250 feet in a radius from the dwelling unit. And where that circle hits the property line, you go 250 feet further from that. So effectively, the vegetative buffer, for example, in the solar fields property, would be 350 feet from the abutting household, not 250. So while it says 250 feet for the setback requirement, effectively, that's from the house, from the abutting house. Effectively, the vegetative buffer requires you to go quite a bit further than that into our property and plant it all with trees, 250 feet deep. So I feel like maybe I used the wrong terminology in my initial comment. I said the setback should be set at 250 feet, which it is. But if you look at the vegetative buffer strip, you'll see that actually the effective setback is not 250 feet from the house, it's 250 feet from the property line. because you have to plant trees on, according to 7B2. That's one thing I wanted to make clear. Another thing,
Can you talk about that one first before we?
oh, yes,
I think it's easier if we talk about them as we go, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. So is what you're saying, it's really a 500-foot setback? Am I adding right or wrong?
it doesn't work out. The methodology in the ordinance is a little complicated. First, you draw a circle around the abutting dwelling unit, 250-foot radius, okay? 250-foot radius all around the house. Okay, in the case of the solar fields property, the house is 100 feet from the property line through dense woods. So you draw the 250-foot circle. And where that circle crosses the common property line between the two properties, okay, there's 2 points where it crosses the property line.
Right.
Then you go 250 feet into our property from there and plant the entire thing. And that's what I object to. I think, first off, the setback is not 250 feet from what houses. It's more than that, depending on how close the house is. And second, I think the buffer planting requirements are totally, they're too much.
I mean, I guess I'm trying to picture, what the buffer would look like, because it's a 6-foot tree, so I'm picturing my front property line, which is 325 feet. And I let it fill in every year. So essentially, we would be planting my entire front tree line. And an immense cost, because a 6-foot tree per tree is very pricey.
Talking acres of trees here.
Right. Well, I have 2.2 acres at 325 feet frontage, so. Yeah, we're talking.
It also depends on how many houses are around as well, because it drops to 125 feet. The buffer on a property line, it's at 80% visit. 80%
Obscuration.
right.
I got a new word this week.
So it's not as, it's not as hard as what you're thinking. What's a Christmas tree, 40 bucks?
Not anymore.
Planted,
George?
But if you're gonna engage in an expensive, putting a solar farm in, you can engage in expensive. So.
George?
George Seal. I mean, Steve's correct. Of course, each site's going to be different. In many instances, you're going to have homes within 10 or 15 feet of the property line, because that's what the minimum lot size ordinance requires. So in that case, it's not going to be 350 feet. It's going to be 260 or 265 feet. With respect to the visual screening, please be aware that in most sites, certainly many sites, but probably most sites, which start out as being forested, the intent of the ordinance is to maintain that forested land in forest in that for the screening. That's the first choice of the ordinance, is to maintain the natural vegetation that's there. And planting is only required when that doesn't exist, like in a field. The reason for going with 6 feet, which is pretty standard, it's standard in the current ordinance for smaller visual screening, is so that it actually functions as screening. If you go to a DOT project or something, that's what they use. So it's pretty standard and it's readily available from nurseries in Maine.
Does that help? I mean, this was part of our discussion, Peter Rushing from the planning board, I'm sorry. So this was, again, part of our discussions, where we tried to rely on standards that we could find, or anything that would be consistent with other things that we found.
So if there's already 100 feet from the house of dense woods, is it still need to be an additional? So corner from the house, 250 feet, or can some of that dense woods already be encompassed by that?
Are you saying, would that act as a screening already?
Right. So if we're looking for this property line buffer, so there's a house here in the middle, and there's 100 feet here. Is that in 250 feet that we're saying? So we're saying here's a square house and, you know, a rectangular house, and we're going 250 feet from each point of the house, and then a circular radius from that. So if 100 feet of this is woods, do you still have to go into the dense woods and then continue from there? I mean, because I think what we're picturing is that every house just sits like mine does in the middle of an open field. But if that's not the case, if there's already existing buffer, do you still then have to plant 250 feet of additional buffer?
About 250 feet more now.
Right.
You need to get that 50% obscurity, and a 250-foot setback from a house, not a property line.
Right.
So that's the only things we're talking about. When he's talking about radius from a house. So,
Excuse me, the steep books property clearly says in 7.2. that the section is entitled minimum vegetative screening dimensions. 250 feet in depth along the common property line. And that's property that's owned by the solar company. And as I said, it's a complicated, you draw one circle and then go from there along the property line.
George?
Steve's correct. The discussion at the planning board went along the lines of that we felt that it was the responsibility of the developer, not the abutting resident, to provide the screening. And so, you know, after all, the burden of proof and all the legal burdens under the ordinance fall to the developer. I mean, that's just the way these ordinances work. And so we didn't feel that it was necessary to put some burden on to the abutting landowner to plant trees or even retain the trees they had. It was really on the developer.
Okay, so you're saying that even if there's already 100-foot section, if that 100-foot is not already on the developer's
Yeah,
land,
right.
so
exactly.
it has to be from that, okay.
Yeah, it's
So
a
the
matter of
developer
whose
needs to
burden.
provide the 250, is what you're saying.
I'm sorry.
The developer needs to provide 250 feet.
Yes, correct.
So, okay, so I'm just gonna throw devil's advocate here. So here's my same really nice schematic drawing. So if we're going 250 feet and this is their property line. So we're going over another 250 feet. So would it really
Would
be
this help you?
350? Yes. So in case the property owner then said, I want to harvest this 100 feet of trees, then there's still an additional 250 feet beyond that.
Yeah, it is based, as Steve said, on the property, location of the property line.
Because really, you could have a property owner that has a solar farm decide they're gonna put it in next to them. And they may have a bunch of wooded area, and they may not like the fact solar farms going there. before they start building, then they clear the trees out to their property edge, which would force them to have 250 feet anyway.
In the case of the solar fields property, that additional acreage of planting buffer cuts across the planned access road, which is on an already existing access road on the property, which is one of the items that the planning board has voiced a preference for, rather than putting in another access road. We're going to use the existing one. And because it's within the 250-foot buffer requirement there, which is actually 350 feet from the house, we're not going to use that. That's right.
Not too much into this. The memo we got from the lawyer allows us to put something in to actually let them continue their permit, which instead of trying to rewrite everything for an existing solar field that already wants to go in, we do this one for anything new coming along and grant them that exemption that the lawyer said. I think it would solve the problems without.
But I think it still has to fall under the existing ordinance, right? So because it was previously approved, would it go by the previous rules, or does the rest of it have to fall under the new ordinance? Because
But the ordinance, I thought the exception was to use the prior permit,
Right,
Right.
so here's the prior permit.
to use the prior permit.
Ordinance.
Yes.
Right,
Right, under the
So
prior
if he
ordinance.
complies to the prior ordinance, he doesn't comply to the new ordinance.
right.
Right,
That's the way I read it.
Right,
That's what I was thinking.
So the
It would
permit
solve this problem
extension-
without
right.
having to reinvent that wheel again.
that's, I can just make
I
sure.
think that makes
Not
sense,
listing
but-
here, no, okay.
But Phil Saucier is on it now, so.
So that the
so
town would
so
have to
Steve's
add a provision.
permit, it seems to me that Steve's permit, which was approved over 2 years ago,
Yes.
would initially be approved, would be valid
We could extend it a year.
36 months from the date of the initial approval.
Right.
And so that would be under the rules that were in effect at that
at
time.
that time.
And it could be extended for another year.
Right.
So that would give you a total of 4 years from the time that it was first approved. And this isn't, I mean, it would have to be under the old rules, but Phil can talk to that.
We will have Phil weigh in, but I didn't see it as 4 years.
I
I
don't
saw
see
it.
this.
I
This
saw
is
it as
36
36
months
months plus
plus
12 months.
another 12-month period that it could be extended.
But if we're adopting what it was from the previous, when it was 24 months and then his permit is now expired.
Right, but
Right,
that's
but
what,
So
That's the change.
This says it would be 36 months from the time it was first approved. In this clause, of this grandfather clause.
But it also says a substantial start of construction must be completed within the 36-month time period.
right, which means he would have 12 more months or 11 months to get it, start the construction.
Where's Phil? He's over there.
He was there.
Yeah,
Phil,
Phil's
Yes.
there.
Phil, do you mind chiming in on this one?
Sure, yes, I wasn't prepared to talk about it, but as I was hearing you, I pulled up my email on this to Denny. So I was asked if I was asked to provide some language that would essentially extend the permit if this went into effect, because as he wrote, some people are clearly sympathetic for the situation in the sense that you had a moratorium in place, and so they couldn't have applied anyway for an extension during that time period. So this was my my take on this. It certainly could be amended, but as I drafted it to try to solve that issue, what it says is it would essentially extend the life of the permit 36 months instead of, it says it used to be 12, and so it would be 36 months from the date of the original approval. That's the intent of the language.
So
And then they could also have another 12-month period. Now, you don't have to put that in there. I just added that to make it consistent with the new ordinance.
Okay.
If that's not your intent. But that's, yes, as drafted, that's what it would be. So whenever the permit was originally approved, 36 months out, and then they could ask for one more time.
So he could be granted a 12-month extension and then an additional 12-month extension. So
What
theoretically,
in essence is a 12-month extension.
no, he said, could then, so,
What was the date of your permit approval?
It was June 2020, June 19th.
So June of 2020, so you have from June till June of 2023, 36 months.
36 months.
And then you could ask for another 12 months, which would take him to June of 2024.
So the extension that we gave him already doesn't mean anything.
No, because that's under the old rules. This is a way to give him a
So
total
we
of
haven't got
4
any new
years
rules.
from when he first approved it.
We haven't got any new rules yet, so we already gave him a 1-year extension, and that extension has expired.
so Phil, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
An additional question. So Solar Fields applied for the permitting process with the PUC and Central Maine Power, correct?
Yes.
And in 2 years' time, they still don't have the permitting in place for that. So realistically, is 36 months even an appropriate time frame? Because if in 24 months, you still can't get what you need for permitting to get started, what if it takes 34 months and then our requirement is that a substantial amount of construction needs to be done in the 36 months?
Well, yeah, it's hard to tell, but I do think that it is important to have a time limit, because the idea behind these permit requirements is that you don't want it to be going on forever, because as you're about to do, things can change over time, right? And so the town, from a policy perspective, may decide, actually, we have new rules. We have development standards or performance standards that if you were to come in today, we'd want to apply. So that's one of the reasons why we have time limits on permits. Is, yes, snapshot in time, you applied under these rules, and so you should be given a reasonable amount of time to construct it, but it's not an open-ended thing. And it's, in this case, it is a little bit unusual in the sense that permit has actually expired. So under the current rules, it's expired and you have to reapply. You have to reapply for a new permit. This is an attempt, and it is, and I'll be the first to admit, it's a little unusual to do that. But in essence, what this language would attempt to do is essentially revive it, right? Because it's sort of it's a retroactive. It's sort of retroactively amending what was in place is what it's doing. And maybe we need to tweak the language a little more, because I'm hearing some good questions here about this, to make it a little more clear if the board decides to move forward with it. But that's what it's doing. It's sort of retroactively reviving the permit because it's changing the rules retroactively that apply to this permit on the validity issue of the permit, the time frame of the permit.
Well,
I don't know the answer to your question in terms of how long it would take. I don't know that. Everything's different. Obviously, every development project is different. There's different rules. These have a little bit more complications since they have to go through a PUC process as well, and it's hard to predict that, and financing and all the other kind of things that go into it.
Well, I guess that's part of my question then, is if solar farms take longer, is 36 months a reasonable time frame, or do we need to incorporate in this ordinance different timeframes depending on what the normal process is? Like, to put up a cell, does that get approved and the permitting process move a little bit quicker? Because I would feel frustrated if I applied for a permit and 2 years had lapsed, and I've yet to get the permits from the two major parties that I have to have permission from before I can even start the process.
It's a good question. Maybe the planning board or members of the industry, could weigh in on that in terms of what it would take.
This new document, it's 36 months with the option for another 12 months. That's 4 years.
So
If you can't get
Yeah.
something done in 4 years, it's time to find a new business.
You got that right.
Steve, how close are you to, if you had a permit, when would be the earliest you could start construction?
Well, that's the question I'm not really answer, but I have some information regarding the issue. Last week, Central Maine Power Company at long last offered the solar fields project an interconnection agreement. That seems acceptable to us. So I think that by the end of this week, we will have signed an interconnection agreement with Central Maine Power Company. So that's the second of the three big items we need: the town permit, the interconnection agreement. The last one is the PUC. It's a power purchase agreement that will be signed by Central Maine Power Company, purchasing the power produced by the solar fields project. And that's gone in an episodic fashion through requests for proposals. There's been 2 rounds of requests for proposals. And these proposals are proposals made by solar energy companies to sell power to the utility company. And they have to provide a bid rate, what you would sell the power for, total information of all kinds that's included in the permit here, the interconnection agreement and other information as well, a lot of engineering information. So, I can't even tell you, now that we have the interconnection agreement, I'm going to start knocking on the doors of the PUC again, which, believe me, I've already done once or twice in prior rounds, to see what their schedule is for issuing another RFP. There've been several projects that signed power purchase agreements that are now in jeopardy. One of them being a town in southern Maine that project was approved for 20 megawatts, like 10 times the size of the one here. 20 megawatt project. The town subsequently adopted a solar, and they didn't have a town permit. They went to the PUC first. So now the town has adopted an ordinance that limits the forest cutting to 10 acres. That's not even enough for 2 megawatts, no less 20 megawatts. So I'm not privy to the details of that, but that's the big picture. I was telling you about that only to say that, so 20 megawatts of what's been approved looks like it could be in jeopardy. So the PUC could decide to fill in, projects that are going to be abandoned.
Do you anticipate that's a 6-month project with PUC? Do you anticipate it's a 12-month project? Because that makes a difference on what we're talking about here.
Yeah, I could get back to you after I talk to them and see what they say. I don't know.
And so under this, you would have basically another year that would make the 36 months.
Yeah.
And then a full year after that.
Providing we started construction.
He has to reapply for a town.
Extension.
The extension.
Yes.
Extension.
Well, it says if the ordinance language says that if the permit has expired, then he has to reapply. Permits that have expired shall become null and void, and the applicant shall obtain another permit as required by this ordinance. So I'm assuming the previous ordinance.
But then,
We were trying to get around that. This is for people under this new ordinance. So like this other solar farm, under this new ordinance, after 36 months, if it expired, they'd have to reapply and give an extension. Right now,
But I believe,
we're trying to add that other thing in here to help him for the existing one that's already there.
Right, well, I guess what I'm checking is. if-
Steve's permit is expired.
Right, so his permit has expired, so that's just the point I'm trying to get to, is that if his permit was approved under the old ordinance and under the existing ordinance, we have a provision in there that says if your permit expires and has become null and void, you have to reapply. So he still has to reapply, correct?
No, but if you
No.
read what's underlined,
It's under.
which is new language, it says, if they're notwithstanding any ordinance language to the contrary, blah, blah, blah. An ordinance that expired, permit that expired during the period was in effect from November 21 until November
Need to go
22.
another, need to go another
Oh,
pink page.
I keep trying to like back and forth between them.
So this would basically
Yeah,
give them,
section 4, you're right there.
Right,
this would basically. give
Why don't
them-
we ask the planning board if he has to?
that's what I was just doing.
Okay, good.
He said there's language in the existing one where his permit was permitted that says if your permit is null and void, you have to reapply for a permit. So there is language in the existing ordinance, which is what Phil is stating here, notwithstanding any ordinance language to the contrary. But the ordinance that's existing now that he first applied under has that language. So he would have to reapply for a permit under the existing ordinance.
That would be my take on it.
Okay.
That's what I guess.
Bruce.
I don't read it that way.
No, I think so.
Phil, how does?
Yeah, no, well, no, that's not the intent. That's not, at least that's not what Denny asked me to write. That's not, so that was, if that's what you're reading, then we need to take another crack at it. What it's saying is, so in other words, notwithstanding any other language to the contrary, meaning in any other ordinance or anything else, any permit that was established, and again, it's very specific, so it's clearly getting to a specific issue that's not going to ever really happen again. Any permit that was approved by the planning board under the commercial development review ordinance prior to the enactment of this ordinance, so in other words, that's what we're talking about, and that had expired during the moratorium, was in effect, and there's, I see one typo instead of R, because it should say is valid for a period of 36 months from the time that that permit was first approved, and may also be extended for. So I'm hearing one question, which is maybe as we work on this language, is if you want it to make sure that that extension, that 12-month extension is under the old ordinance, we can make that clear if that's what you want to do. So because I can hear that's one question I'm hearing. So we could add some language there, and may also be extended for a period of months under the terms of that original permit, something like that. But we've come up with better language. But if that's one of the outstanding questions, we should clarify it before you move forward.
Every member of the planning board is nodding with me. So.
Yeah.
But Phil, what you're saying in this language is that the original permit that Steve had, instead of being for 1 year with a now expired 1-year extension, would be basically approved at that time for 3 years, 36 months.
It essentially revives it, and then allows it to be for 36 months from the date of the approval. So there's only 1 more year from today, right? Because it was approved in 2020. Yes.
Right. So it takes his 1 year with a 1-year extension and turns it into a 3-year permit with the possibility of 1 year extension. So it could be 4 years from the time of it was first approved by the.
From the
planning
time it was first approved. That's
So-
right.
So Phil, if this should happen, 1 year from now, and it's still nothing been done, his permit expired again, we wouldn't have to go through this again, correct?
That's right. If this was the language you adopted, then, and they didn't build in that time period, it would be over, right? They would be expired and they have to reapply.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I want to make sure. Thank you.
1-year extension.
You gotta be 80%, large amount done.
Right, you gotta have some of that.
But one of the questions, I guess the question I got, and I heard Phil mention it a little while ago about it, is, so Steve was granted a extension a year ago. When did the moratorium start? Because if I understood what Phil had said, during the moratorium, you can't even you can't even give an extension.
The moratorium was in effect, from my understanding, it went into effect on November 16th of 2021 and has been extended at this point through November 5th of 2022.
But Steve's permit was already approved under the old rules before the moratorium went into effect.
So the moratorium
For 1
went
year.
effective. So
Correct.
he's got an expired permit under a moratorium that didn't affect him. And you guys are talking about adding language to take an expired permit and giving him more time? Isn't that setting you guys up for a lawsuit
From whom?
from anybody that wants to, that has
But he already had a permit. He had a
and it
permit that was
expired
approved
under the
by.
old rules, so the moratorium didn't affect him. He could have built last year.
He couldn't. He didn't have the approvals that he needed.
Well,
from his-
that's nothing to do with the law and what happened. That's nothing to do with us. And you can
But
extend
why
it.
should he be?
What's to say
penalized?
that the PUC's even gonna pick it?
That's
They
right.
may not.
They may not. So how
But-
many
but-
years do you want to put into an ordinance that can extend time and time for a commercial permit? Because it's just not solar farms. It's all commercial permits. And it's not even a given thing that the PUC's even gonna pick it. So how far out do you want to go? I thought it was a long ways for 3 years. I struggled with that. Because then you have another year, so that's 4 years. I really struggled with that, but I agreed to it. So I don't know why you guys are talking about going any further than that.
Well, basically, we're giving him a total of 4 years, which is what we're allowing for new people, is a total of 4 years.
Yeah, but it seems though that's, someone has a hair, then,
I mean, are
That's
there
setting
other
the town up for
permits
some sort of
sitting
liability.
out there that this?
so what are you gonna do
would
for Hello Good Pie? You gonna do the same thing?
Does she have a permit?
Her permit just expired. So you're gonna do the same thing with Hello Good Pie?
Does it meet the guidelines of this?
There's no
I don't know.
moratorium on a restaurant. But why is he any different than Hello Good Pie?
I'm asking what there is for permits out there. I don't know whose permits out there that are expired that this would affect.
And this is specifically for a permit for a non-residential solar energy producing facility. So it wouldn't apply to anybody else.
No, that applies to the whole commercial ordinance.
The whole commercial order.
That's everything, flat line.
I know, but this language says any permit for a non-residential solar energy producing facility. This is new language that
That you're gonna add, that's
that
not
Phil Sutton's
existent to
gonna
this
add.
day.
that can assist.
So why can't you add, why aren't you adding language for the whole commercial ordinance? Because we're talking about the whole commercial ordinance.
Right. If you guys gonna allow the solar farm to go, then any other commercial permits that have been issued before the moratorium, you're gonna have to do the same language for that one, for them too, or you guys are gonna set the town up for a huge lawsuit.
Well, we have our lawyer, maybe he could weigh in on whether we're setting
Hey,
ourselves
Phil,
up for a lawsuit.
are we setting ourselves up for a lawsuit?
Well, I would say what I always say is you can never prohibit someone from filing a lawsuit, right? So I can't say that. What I would say is this is specific, and I guess my understanding is right, that the town was going through an adoption of solar ordinances. So that's one thing that I would say makes it different, right? So the town was going through a solar ordinance adoption period and getting ordinances. And so that's why I understand that you would allow this to go forward. Now, could someone try to say, yes, they could try to say, well, why did you bring me? I don't know what their theory would be, right? They're only allowed to apply for things that are in an ordinance. And if you didn't exempt them, I would argue defending the town that you had a reason to do so from a policy perspective. That's what I would say. But you can't prohibit somebody from filing a suit.
Peter.
Hi, Peter Rushton from the planning board. Phil, just to make sure that you have a clear understanding, the language that we wrote was for solar facilities, and we were inserting it into our commercial development review ordinance. So
Right.
in other words, it was not a standalone solar facilities ordinance.
Got
So-
it. Yeah, I understand that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess the point I was trying to make is the purpose of the exercise the planning board went through was to develop standards, for solar facilities. And clearly that was also the purpose of the moratorium. You didn't have a moratorium, for example, on other types of uses. So that's the purpose the planning board has been going through this process on this one.
Moratorium didn't affect him.
That's correct.
So that's where I'm getting at right there. He didn't have to deal with the moratorium, so how are you using the moratorium to change the rules for him?
Steve, is there a reason that you didn't apply for the 12-month extension?
I did.
He did.
Or,
did.
And it's
oh, but wait a
expired.
minute, you didn't have the option, right? Because under the existing ordinance, your permit was for 24 months.
Well, it's 12 months plus you could
The year.
request a 12-month extension.
Which you
did,
did.
and we were granted.
Correct,
So there was nothing more he could do under the existing order.
correct.
So essentially, if CMP and the PUC holds you back, you have no legal recourse, is what you're saying.
Correct.
And is there anything in this, what you're proposing? And we just used the Hello Good Pie as an example. Is there anything here that would change Hello Good Pie asking for a permit?
No,
So it doesn't change any of the other ordinances. It only changes the solar
correct.
application.
Our language is only focused on solar.
That's incorrect. You're changing the lifespan from a permit from 1 year to 3 years, and then a 1-year extension. And that's flat line, that's across the whole commercial ordinance. So we are making changes to the whole commercial ordinance.
Okay, oh, as far as okay, I'm just trying to understand.
So
That's true.
So I guess, I'm not sure why someone who has an existing business who's not being held up by outside entities, why,
It wouldn't,
They
it wouldn't affect Hello Good Pie.
right,
If their permits have expired, all they'd have to do is come in and apply for a new permit.
reapply. Correct? There's nothing preventing them from reapplying.
They
And
just
there's
have
nothing
to
that
apply
says-
under the
there's quite
new
an
terms.
expense to reapply. I mean, yeah, maybe some of the engineering is already done, but it's still an expense.
And is this for
But
solar?
you're
Is this
correct.
for a
It's
solar farm?
not holding her back from coming to reapply.
All right, Steve, did you have a second point?
It may have gone away. No, I don't. We're still discussing, or we were discussing at the beginning, 50% back, but now are you asking, do I have any other?
Yeah, because
Other than that one.
Okay. Well, right on the same page, 10. There's paragraph number 6, right in the middle of the page. It's entitled Clear Cutting and Open Space. I had advocated that the amount of wooded vegetation that may be cleared for a solar facility, we set at 25 acres. Planning board suggested 10 acres. That's purely just a matter of judgment on your part. But part of that paragraph that I think that I would like away is it says additionally, a minimum of 15% of a solar facility's developed and disturbed land area is to be reserved as undeveloped and natural open space. First off, I don't understand what does, it almost sounds like first we have to disturb the area and then we have to reserve it as open space. So I don't understand that particular little piece of language there. But more generally, I just wonder why 15% of a solar farm should be reserved as open space. I mean,
Can I answer that?
Yeah.
Okay, because even in a subdivision, you gotta designate 15% as open space and undeveloped. So it's not the only ordinance that we have that in. And it's also going to help promote the George.
Comprehensive plan.
Comprehensive plan, thank you. And that's what the comprehensive plan asks for. It's a 60%.
Right.
So that's the reason why that's in there.
So does the 250-foot buffer count as open space? So
Explicitly, no.
Buffer would not count.
Or buffer, I have buffers in subdivisions too, they don't.
Correct. This was again, part of a discussion that led to negotiations and compromise. Craig brought up the equity with regard to the subdivision ordinance, and we chewed on that. We landed on the same thing, so.
But you're gonna end up with a bunch of open space anyways. You plant your wooded buffers, you are gonna have solar panels all the way up to the trees anyway. Because the trees are gonna block your solar, the sun. So you're gonna have 20, 30 feet from the trees to the first panels anyway.
What is that?
So you're gonna have a bunch of open space around. Really between the trees and you start higher there.
And does that count as part of the 15%? It would,
I think so.
would it?
Yeah.
It would in a site that was a field. If it was a wooded, started out as a wooded site and they cleared it, it would not.
Oh,
Right, so if you cut down trees to install,
You know.
yeah,
you'd have to.
Yeah.
That would not be part of
Oh, I mean, open space is maintaining the land in its original state.
okay.
Bruce,
That 15%, is that fenced in area or unfenced in area?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter, so I kind of, on my part of it, you're gonna have an open land, it should be unfenced, so the wildlife will be able to have that 15%.
But this is consistent with other ordinances, is what I'm hearing you say.
specifically the subdivision ordinance.
Okay, all right, that's,
They're not fenced, that's one thing I was getting at.
oh, okay.
Steve,
I have a question then. The property that Solar Fields owns is actually 25 acres. There's 21 acres of open field. There's 4 acres of wooded land that's not going to be cut. It's going to be just the way it is. Does that count as open space under your?
Absolutely.
Okay. Because that's why I said I don't understand why it says 15% of the solar facilities developed and disturbed land area is to be reserved. That wooded area is not developed or disturbed. So maybe some change needs to be put in regarding, what does that mean? 15% of the solar facilities developed and disturbed land area is to be reserved as undeveloped and natural open space. First it says it's developed, then it's going to be reserved as undeveloped.
Would you like me to?
George, yes, please.
George Seal again. So the basis of calculating how much acreage is 15% would be the acreage that's been developed, bulldozed or whatever for the development of the solar arrays and the rest of the facility. So if you develop 20 acres, you would need 6 acres in, I'm sorry, 3 acres in open space.
Open space.
Yeah,
And open space includes forest.
includes the forest only.
Does that make more sense to you?
That makes a little more.
It's the word open spaces.
A minimum of 15% of facilities, a minimum, where it should be then say, it should say a minimum of, a minimum area of open space equal in size to 15% of the developed and disturbed space shall be reserved as open space.
That would be an improvement.
That
And
would,
if this goes to Phil to review, then we'll have an opportunity to do so.
So that's the one on page 10, section C. I mean, section 6.
6.
Okay.
So with that, we'd have clarification, right, on the point that we tried to make.
Right, just clarifies what you're doing.
Yeah,
And also, to be open
Open
space, I would say it's open space forested land, and I think I might be confused by that,
and
so.
then there'll be less obscurement for that.
Okay,
All right. Steve, did you have anything else? I know you.
I don't want to, belabor points, but I'll go to one other one. I guess it should be dreaded decommissioning. And it's a more general comment. Decommissioning of these facilities is an event that is going to take place far in the future. Much more likely it's going to be solar fields coming back in 20 years and saying, we'd like to upgrade the facility. Efficiently enough hours. This decommissioning section, I just wish that we could do away with most of it and say, we're just going to go with the DEP decommissioning process. It's all set up by the state and call it good. Let me just say one other area, because I just remember this one, the farmland. I sent in a second little memo saying, in thinking about the farmland provisions, I recommend that they just. We don't have active farmland of any size. Most of the good farmland has gone back to forest. And when's the last time anybody cleared some forest land to start an agricultural operation around here? I just don't really understand why a town like Belgrade has confusing and contradictory farmland provisions, despite the re-evaluation. We've got farmland defined in the definitions is one thing, and then the farmland provisions deal with soils and seem contradictory to me. We're looking at page 5, it talks about farmland and definitions, and I don't understand how they really jive with the farmland provisions that are later on in the application requirements. And I said that the last time, and I don't know, I still don't understand that. So I think that those two are more general comments on decommissioning. Let's go with the DEP process on the farmland, really reevaluate whether that really needs to be. If you look at the USDA maps of prime farmland soils in Belgrade, there's some prime farmland soils in Belgrade, but most of them are forested now. They used along Route 135, in fact, where the solar fields land is, and beyond and across the street, there is some prime farmland. We had a soils test done and a farmland evaluation, because at the time the PUC required it, but they don't require it for the RFP that we're going to do. And we have like an acre and a half in the 21 acres that they found was prime farmland. And I notified the board of that at the time. There's a lot more prime farmlands along 135, but it's forested. So why are we setting aside prime farmland? Most of it is gone back to forest.
There's still a lot of private farmland
Yeah.
in North Belgrade.
In South Belgrade.
Is the farmland part of one of our other ordinances or farm plan, or is it all, is there something else that we're trying to tie up to?
George,
George Steele. Yes, it is, we based it on the very document that the PUC had, the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Conservation developed guidelines for how to identify prime farmlands and significant agricultural soils. That document, those guidelines are incorporated by reference into the proposed ordinance. If you look at the preface to that, the introduction to that document, you'll find a caveat that says, basically it says, do not rely on existing medium intensity soil mapping because it's not precise enough. You need to go and do this in the field. And that's a standard caveat for those that kind of soil mapping that's done by the USDA. And so that's what we did. That's now I should elaborate too, in terms of farmland, lands that have been historically used in the last 5 years, which is the definition in state statute for farmland. Belgrade may not be as agricultural as Monmouth or some of those towns that still have some dairy farms and stuff, but under the state definition, that includes Christmas tree farms, hay fields. It would certainly include the 2 forever farms in town. So Belgrade is not devoid of what would fall into the state definition of farmland.
Well, right there, we're talking about the two different ideas or concepts behind farmland. One is this definition, which talks about the use of the land now, and the other one just talks about soil. So maybe what you're really getting at is you want to protect existing farms, and you also seem to be going to great lengths to preserve farmland soils that aren't farms anymore. Is that correct? That's what you're doing, really.
No, it's not. It would have to meet that state definition of farmland, which
It
means
would.
that, yes,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So, and
Well, that's not.
and the fact of the matter is, people actively farm land that is not significant or prime farmland on prime farmland soils.
Mhm.
So, it's the difference between if you drive on Route 2 to Farmington and you look at all the solar arrays off to the right of the highway versus the ones that are down on the alluvial soils along the Sandy River, which I'll bet, my next social security check are prime farmland soils.
It used to be all cornfields.
Yeah, correct.
So the whole purpose, and this is of course a state initiative, is to protect soils that are best used is kept in productive agriculture and growing our food locally versus putting solar panels on top of them.
Well, here's the definition of farmland in the ordinance. Farmland means any tract or tracts of land used for commercial farming. A, that consists of 5 or more contiguous acres. B, that is land on which a farm product is produced. Now, I have no problem with that definition. But then later on, I'm searching for the section, it's in the requirements. You go on to talk about the need to test every piece of land that's proposed for a solar farm to see what the soils are, and if they're prime farmland, how does that, where does it say that now? It does say
Page 7, number 16. I think.
that. Yeah. So,
Application requirements,
yeah.
16 prime.
That's right. So now we're into this requirements for the permit application. And every application for a solar farm, which I don't think there are gonna be many, right, anyway. But it has to include, soils identification and mapping by main licensed soil scientists. Why, I mean, that, if it's not a farm anymore, if it's woods,
Right, so maybe this is something that needs further clarification, but that's why we use the terminology farmland soils. Revert back to the definition of farmland.
Soil scientist is the same person that does your septic designs. So I can find that.
it costs me $4,000 or $5,000.
But either way, it's still the same guy, goes out there with the logger, looks at the soil, tells the soil. That's what a soil scientist does.
On a 20-acre piece of land, they did, I think, 12 or 15.
On my 23-acre subdivision, they did 13 of them.
The getting the test done is one thing, but prohibiting the solar farm from locating on farmland soils that are now woods is not, and this seems to do that. Maybe I'm wrong.
So I definitely see a little bit of discord between the two, because it does say land that is currently being used to produce a farm product.
That's in the definition. of
That's in the
farm.
definition of farmland. And is it the same requirement if it's a wind farm or a cell tower?
But could you also not have a situation where there is farmland that's not been farmed, that doesn't have trees on it? That you're concerned about it being taken out of availability for farming? I sort of thought I was hearing that somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
They're like rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah. No, the intent was to protect land that is in current farm land use
Okay,
and producing a crop of some sort.
Bruce?
And most documents, municipality documents, always refers back to definitions. So, and I don't have it in front of me, but if it's saying the soil test, I believe you fall back to the definition of farm, what they have in the ordinance for definition of farm, and that's something that's been farmed within the last 4 years, if I remember right. So if it's a wooded land, and doesn't have Christmas trees on it, but it's wooded land, then it wouldn't be considered farmland by definition of the ordinance, I believe.
Maybe that's something we can just get clarified between you and the lawyer, once the lawyer gets this. Because it sounds like a clarification.
Do you think we could get that from the lawyer? Because it asked for that clarification.
Yeah, sure.
So let's do that.
So, because the intention in the ordinance that if it's existing, like I'm gonna use the Carson property, just because they've had cows there. They had a CSA farm, so it was being used to produce farm products. And then what if Lonnie wanted to put a solar farm there now? Then she would be prohibited, because in the past 5 years, she had produced farm products. Would that,
Sounds.
so that would be correct. However, if she has 20 acres to the left and wants to do something there, and it's forested at this point, does not fall under the same guidelines,
Right, not under farm land.
not under farmland. So then, yeah, so I think if we just would get that clarified, that what the intention is, so that it.
so when
doesn't
Phil
need
does
to
the
be
review, he can
confused.
do what needs to happen to clarify that. Is that what,
Yes.
that number 16 is the one that is causing confusion?
I think so.
Phil, will you help a little bit with that language so that that's
Yep.
more clear?
I would be happy to. You said that's long.
And as far as the decommissioning, let's get back to that real quick. I prefer that the town has their decommissioning stuff in their ordinance. The state of Maine will change depending on who's the governing body. So it could get stricter, it could get less strict, 2 years from now. I would prefer to have something in the ordinance that basically tells you you're gonna, if you're not gonna upgrade it and you're discontinuing it, it's gonna be put back to basically what it was before. All the crap has to come out of the ground. I'd rather prefer like to see it stricter than not, because down the road, it's I equate it to the old gas stations that were forever still finding fuel tanks in the ground. Because it used to be, oh, you could just fill full of sand and just bury them over, or you could do this and just bury them over. If you're done with it, it needs to come out of the ground.
I don't have a problem with that. Do we have language in here that I've missed? I feel like I've read it a handful of times, but that this is, so if a solar facility does not upgrade at the end of the useful lifespan, then the decommissioning would come into place. If they were upgrading, would they have to apply for an additional permit to upgrade the existing facility?
Yeah.
And then the decommissioning would essentially be held at bay until the useful lifespan of those new things.
That's what I was, yes.
It would also depend if the ordinance gets changed at that time, the new permit would be the new ordinance.
But it also may not have to come back. If you actually look at it, it may not have to come back with that type of permit if you're just changing panels. You're not adding or expanding, but changing the footprint. It's like putting a new roof on your house. Have to come get a permit to put a new roof on your house, just to upgrade your shingles.
Probably in 20 years, there'll be a much different way to put that roof on.
Right,
Put in
what
a
I'm saying
different
is
structure.
it all gonna depend on what's happening when it comes time
Right.
to upgrade too, as to whether you're gonna.
Well, Melanie, to just, with the changes that we're looking to change here, or they're thinking about changing, is this gonna put it so that it's not gonna make the November election?
Yeah. should still be.
I mean, they're running out of time here. I would think.
Rick, it's my sincere hope that we go forward with this, probably with a couple of clarifications that the town's lawyer can provide to make the November election date.
Okay, that's what I'm wondering. I just don't want to keep banging this, and every time we come back to this, we change something, and we need to put this to bed and let the taxpayers vote on it, see what they want.
Well, I think once we're done tweaking it, we don't want to give it to them if we're not done tweaking.
Well, I understand that, but we can pick this apart forever. You know what I'm saying?
But then what's gonna happen, Rick, is if we push it forward and we haven't done the picking apart, then people are gonna be like, they didn't do their due diligence, because people still had questions and they didn't address them, and they pushed this ordinance forward onto us.
We've only had one person here for the questions. That's the problem. I mean, if it was real bad, if it was a real bad ordinance, you'd have a lot of people in here, I would think.
I could have gotten my wife, but she's out of town right now.
No, and I understand that. I'm not picking you apart. I'm just saying, if it was real bad, I would think that there'd be more people in here.
I think with the comments we've had tonight, it's more just tweaking the language that's existing right now. If we can approve it, to send it to the lawyer tonight, which is what we had on the schedule to do, is for the schedule of things that had to happen. And the lawyer takes care of it, we're still on schedule.
Right.
The only thing you haven't come up with, are we gonna, or is it gonna happen that he goes under the old agreement or the new one? That's where the area is gonna come up next.
So what happens next? If he reapplies now, is he under the old?
This
Yeah.
minute, yes, you
Yeah.
get your old.
Because there is no new yet.
There was no new yet.
We have to make that decision though, correct?
Correct,
But he can't reapply now because there's a moratorium.
Right.
Right.
correct.
So you can't
It
apply
it would
now.
be building it into this.
Right, he would have
He'd
to put the
reapply.
exception in,
He'd have to reapply in November when the exception was.
So,
but it would then be the new one if we don't put the exception.
So you'd have to put that memo into the ordinance?
Ordinance.
Is that, am I understanding that?
Right.
Yes.
So that memo would have to be part of your ordinance?
Yeah,
Okay.
his
Okay.
language.
Okay.
Allowing that.
Now
one
it's
system.
Allowing that one situation.
Okay, now it makes sense.
All right.
There was not,
I think we did it.
Yeah,
It's a
I'm not
little
crazy
obscure,
about
but
it, but
not
I don't have a
horrible.
problem. You know, it's not. I'd rather have everything go under the new ordinance, but I can
I
understand
understand the situation.
their situation too, since they were already existing.
Well, then
Planning board,
COVID had a
is
little
there-
bit of play in this
It
too,
messed
so-
everything up, yeah.
Is there a big problem with the planning board if that ordinance or that exception is put in? I guess that's the question I would have.
Can't vote for the whole planning board, but I think this is a case where you'd have a split vote, but the majority would be, we're okay with it, is what my opinion would be. It's where we came from the beginning, working on this ordinance. We had, basically 3 people with the one side and 2 people with the other, and we chose to compromise rather than just slamming it down somebody's throat at you lost because it's 3-2. We worked together to come up with something that everybody could vote on.
I think it's commendable that the
Yeah.
planning board was able to negotiate through on it. I mean, that really is finding a consensus in the middle. And I think that's really, you're to be commended on that.
yeah, I agree.
Because
And-
we don't do that.
We try real hard, but
Just kidding. We do.
And very honestly, on some of these things, I look at if the diversity of the planning board came together, with this is the consensus, I don't know who I am to say, I know a lot more than changing that. So I think that part of the process is important.
Did an awful lot of work on that. I know some of the ones that meets that I attended, I mean, it was back and forth and back and forth.
All right, have I
Thank
lost?
you.
Yes, okay, I remember. So this still keeps us on track.
Right,
This will keep us on
So
track.
tomorrow is August 3rd. The proposed amendments can be sent to the town attorney for a legal review.
Right.
And that still keeps us with the planning board on August 18th, considering those amendments, making sure that what needed clarification is clear.
Mhm.
And then we can
Comes back to us on
bring
the
that back
6th.
September 6th.
Yeah.
George?
A question for Phil. I just want to make sure it's feasible for him to review the ordinance in time to get us his comments and suggested revisions by that August 18th meeting of the planning board.
Yes, that's plenty of time for me. Yeah, I'll be able to accomplish that.
All right.
Thank you.
thanks, Phil.
Ooh, ooh, look at us go tonight.
That's okay.
Well, we
Do you
did-
have a motion that you want to make to move that forward to the lawyer or?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. Steve,
Am I out of order? Did I say something?
Wait, we have a motion on the floor.
we
Yeah.
have a motion and a second.
You asked for any discussion.
Any
May not-
discussion?
may not
This is
include
where we
me.
get, and then you get to say,
I get-
any further discussion?
Okay. I just want to make sure that that language that Bill came up with is included in what you're agreeing to send on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Ricky?
This is to send a clarification on that stuff. Am I correct?
This is to send the whole ordinance to Phil Socher, who's going to also take a look at clarifying those couple of points that came
Okay.
up tonight.
Yes.
including our language. Okay, Ricky says yes. Barbara?
Yes,
Carol?
Yes,
Dan?
Yes,
I feel like I should say no just to be obstinate, but I will not. We're going with 5-0. Woo!
All right.
All right, you guys need to do this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Round of
Thank you
applause
for all your
because
work.
that's a
Yeah,
ton
thank
of
you for
work
everything you've done.
for all of you, and we appreciate it immensely.
Thank
for
you.
being way smarter than me.
A lot of time involved.
All right, next up, we have Maine DOT and Belgrade's cooperative agreement revision, for the Belgrade Water System Agreement. I will take a motion to open that item.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Carol, seconded by Barbara. That item is open for discussion. All right, so we have a clean copy. And the second.
Before we get going, can I ask, what property is 62A?
I don't know. I need like a map going
We
with this.
have a map at one point. Where did it go?
Yeah, it's
I
not
didn't find
included
it,
in this
not
package.
I
Really?
just was curious where 62A was, that,
Dwight, do you know where 62A is?
I think it might be 1059 Augusta Road. You know, the mobile home that where the tractor trailer rolled over in front of, right at the intersection of
across on the other
Depot.
side?
Yeah, right across from the post office.
Okay.
Okay. And is that the only property across 27?
No, unfortunately, we did not capture the Chase property when the district was approved by the legislature. So we are working to resolve that well claim individually right now with Mr. Chase, the property owner. And so that's something we'll be splitting with you guys 50-50 on.
And what property is the Chase property?
I think it's 19 Depot Road.
So would that be the next one up?
No, there's a one in between 9 Depot Road, I believe, which is not impacted.
Just done, that's unusual.
So Dwight, did we get notification that DOT was negotiating with them outside of this? Because my understanding was the establishment of the water district was not contingent on any specific properties.
Yeah, we had to define the properties involved or the area for the water district. And we sent the addresses, and I believe the town compiled a tax map. And unfortunately, it didn't capture the Chase property. So we've had discussions along to how to resolve that. Obviously, we can't. You can either go back to the legislature and have them redraw the district map, or the easiest way is to try to resolve it individually on the property.
And I thought that if we were negotiating with any individual property owners where the town of Belgrade was going to be on the hook for 50%, that the agreement that we had made quite a long time ago was that a representative from the town of Belgrade would be there for negotiation. So it would be the town manager, the acting town manager. And this is the first I'm hearing of this.
I'm not sure what you mean by negotiations. We're trying to resolve the issue. We can chat right now. If you have some other suggestions, we're certainly willing to work with you folks on how to resolve those.
Well, I'm not sure what conversations you've had because the town hasn't been privy to the conversations, but we're gonna pay 50%.
What was that property number?
When you say resolve the issue, what are you doing or proposing to resolve it? Or how?
Trying to find clean water.
So are you drilling wells or?
That's what we'll try, yeah.
So how far are we in the resolution process? We adding you.
I mean, this is where we're at right now. So, you know, I know we've had some discussions with Anthony in the past. So I'm not sure why this is coming as a surprise. We all knew it wasn't captured in the water district.
Yes, I do, but-
Maybe you and Anthony know.
And 62A, that was captured in the water district?
Yep, but that well is currently below the chloride threshold. But it has increased significantly over the last 4 years.
So it's escalating, but isn't above the threshold at this point.
Yeah,
So I guess anything that we're doing with any properties that aren't captured within that original map, we need for someone from the town of Belgrade to be present and actively engaged with it, with Maine DOT in the resolution of that. So we need Mary Vogel as the interim town manager. And then we have a new town manager that's starting September 6th. So
It's on
So-
that set.
so do you want,
Yeah, let me grab the map, so bring it.
Just one thing, maybe all this information should be going CC town manager and the board of select persons, not just going to town manager by looks,
well, it absolutely should be, and I.
because
you know,
nobody
and I-
knows anything about this property. This is a surprise to everybody here tonight, so.
well,
Well, I-
the property was identified as a well claim 4 years ago, so it's not a surprise.
I think this
5 years.
point is maybe that it wasn't part of the water district and therefore you've got to negotiate separately. I think that's the surprise.
I don't think, we're not trying to negotiate. By state law, both the town and the Maine DOT, the state, have to provide potable water to this homeowner. And so we can work with you. Just you point out the contacts we need to make. And we'll move forward with it. We just want to get this person some clean water.
Well, I was just looking at the map, right?
Yes, it's 60, 61, 61A, 62, 62B, and 63.
So here's 61A, 61, 60, 62B.
Melanie, Jack's got his hand up.
Jack?
someone need to-
You're still muted, Jack.
Still muted, Jack.
There you
Can
go.
you hear me now?
Yes.
I asked this question only because I know that the town of Oakland has brought water over from the Kennebec Water District to serve them instead of providing their own water. Number one, within recent memory, there's been a serious look by the gas company in running gas lines out along Route 27 to the Belgrade Depot area and possibly beyond. That's silent now, that's dormant now. It's possible to put a force in for return of sewage, and we haven't discussed the possibility of teaming up with the Augusta Sewage District, but that's a possibility. But my question is, has the town of Belgrade officially had discussions with the city of Augusta about these possibilities? Looking at the possibility of teaming up on the cost of a trench, the cost of parallel pipelines at whatever safe distance is required by law to put them in, and so forth. I'm not suggesting it be done, but I'm asking whether the town of Belgrade has opened that discussion and gotten an answer on it.
So early on, Kirsten, is it Hebert, had told us, we did have a cost estimate, Jack, and I don't remember exactly what it was. I knew it was to the tune of several $1 million. and that the Augusta Utility District did not want to take on anything past their point. And I'm sorry, I don't have the exact figures for you. Denny and I had discussed it, and
It was cost prohibitive.
it was cost prohibitive, and they didn't want to come out past that. It was, gosh, I wish I had the total right off my head, but it was
$4 million a mile.
It was several million a mile.
Something like that. Yeah.
It's we have found it's usually about $300 a foot, which is probably now up to around $500 a foot. So, and I think it's several miles from the last connect. So, you can see it quickly adds up.
I think the water district, their last hydrants up by with state police, digital up in that area. I think that's about where the hydrant stopped.
No, it's got up to the new lights now. Up past
By
the
the,
new
by
lights.
the, by the camper place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you still got
Yeah, it's still a long way.
6 or 7 miles.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think we did look at it, and I think it was a little over 6 miles from the last hydrant.
Has it been looked at in conjunction with laying of a gas line?
Well, the challenge with a gas line, it's usually only 2 to 3 feet below the ground surface. And with a water main, it has to be 4 to 5 feet typically.
I understand that, but there's a difference in footage and depth. But there's a commonality in taking off the top few feet and a commonality in taking off the pavement and putting the pavement back.
Right.
I wonder if
I'm not a utility expert, but I know there's separation of lines, like sewer lines and water lines have to be separated by so many feet. And I believe gas lines and water lines have similar separation, so you can't put them in the same trench.
There's not enough volume out here for a main gas line to come out here. There's not enough volume. for
They looked at it when they talked, wanted to ham it up and everything else.
There wasn't enough volume.
Right.
So it's not.
So
Well,
they needed that.
if it's impractical and not doable, I'll accept that, but I would like to feel that it's been looked at in enough depth to know that.
We had discussion of it
I was gonna say,
maybe a year ago.
I feel like we had, because we had a dollar amount,
Yeah.
and we also had the assurance that the Augusta Utility District did not want to take it on. So they had no intention of, if we build it, they will come. They were like, we don't want it. So that was early on, Jack.
What map? Can they tell us what map number that is?
Do you know which map number it is, Dwight, on that property, the
Map
Chase
and lot.
property?
I do
Like
not.
map-
I use addresses. That's what, I mean,
It's 19, is it 19?
19 Depot.
19 Depot Road is the Chase property, right?
We've got quite a few along.
Because I thought we went down a little bit down the depot.
We do have quite a few along. there.
Can you see that we've got there?
So the intention is the water line to cross 27,
That's the
the
legislative.
water district line. The intention of water district line is to cross 27 towards the Depot Road.
If there's contamination over there, you have to be added properties over there.
So wouldn't it be cheaper just to do the 50/50 and tie it into the same line? Instead of drilling wells and.
We'd have to go back to the legislature, and if it's not on that list, we have, the legislation has specific lots. So if it's not on our list, we have to go back to the legislature.
Okay, so I guess I'm getting confused because I thought, and all the discussion you've been having with the taxpayers is that if there's added properties that end up being contaminated, they can be connected to this water
You
district.
still have to go back to the legislature.
I think you probably ought to be letting the taxpayers know that then. Because as me, as one of the taxpayers, I was understanding that if there was another property that was contaminated, we were all set. Now we gotta go back and rely on Augusta to make a decision that we can connect more. To me, it's a waste of money and waste of time.
So Dwight, does that make sense? Could you hear what Bruce was saying?
The intent, the water district was established to address the existing contamination, understanding that some of the wells within that area that were below the threshold may increase. I think if you look at what we have, we're going to be addressing all of the issues with the exception of the Chase property across the street. And we would have adequate volume and adequate distribution to address anything in the triangle area. Now, the challenge becomes if you start seeing things migrate to the east, down the Pinewood Drive area.
That was one of my questions, one of the concerns I brought up, this whole negotiation stuff.
So would that mean that, if I'm understanding correctly, if Pinewood Drive starts with contamination, we'd still have to go back to the legislature to increase the parameters of the water district?
Yep. The intent, keep in mind, the town wanted to limit the amount of people that could tie into this water system. And so that's why I believe they defined a specific geographic area that could tie into it.
Well, I believe we were tying it to the number of properties that had been identified because of the output of the well, how many it could realistically serve. I don't think it was the town's intention not to include anyone who was affected.
Well, the reality is that we'll have to go back and expand it if there are more properties,
Right.
right? That's where we're at
And
now,
it-
whether that was our
And
intention
and
or
it
not.
probably wouldn't be that hard to put this through to add that property.
Yeah,
Right.
This coming legislative session, no matter who the legislator is.
And what about 62A, if it's below the threshold? Currently, because
Well,
what we have on here, we have 62A, 62, 62B.
62A is the one, is 19 Depot Road.
So 62A is 19 Depot Road?
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what she just want to look at.
So 62A is listed in this resolution.
No, 62 and 62B.
Well, wouldn't 62 be 62A?
No, 62 is a different property. 62, 62A, 62B.
Oh, good God.
It's way this, when the assessor did this, way this splits are done.
Let me split it along.
So what it is it just didn't start coming down this, they got the corner in the triangle, but they didn't come any farther past 62 coming down the Depot Road.
So at this point, 62A would not need to hook in because its level is below.
It's the one they're trying
No,
to
that's,
negotiate.
that's the one he's saying that they're negotiating with now.
Needs to be added.
So 62A is not the Chase property.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is the Chase property. Okay, I'm sorry.
Well, and I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out, because I thought Dwight, I thought you said 62A, the well is below the threshold, but it's been increasing over the last 4 years.
The Chase property, again, I'm not going to reference town tax maps. The Chase property at 19 Depot Road has consistently shown levels above the 250 part per million for chloride. For the
And
last,
that's-
for the
that's
last
the
4
one
plus
that-
years. Right, and that's the one that we would like to resolve on an individual basis.
So is this the one that's across from the post office?
No.
19,
It's a second house up Depot Road on the right. A nice little white ranch.
So by resolving it separately, would that preclude having to go across 27 with the
Yes.
water district?
Yes,
It would. And that's what you're hoping to accomplish.
right. Keep in mind, $300 a foot. So,
Okay,
At this moment, but some of the other properties on that side, we do have designated that could look into it if they ever become contaminated.
I think we have a property at, I think it's at 995, which is on the other side, just north of the kayak place. Yeah, I think 995 is now over the 250 as well. So we do have to cross 27.
oh, you do, okay.
It's gotta be Harry Strickland's old place. Would guess.
Yes, I think that is. Yep.
That must be-
Okay. And that you can't resolve separately.
We're seeing all those properties start to increase and hover around the 200 to the 250 level. So obviously the kayak shop, the well is not hooked up. It hasn't been used for a while, but we're seeing levels at, I think 170 was last sampled, and that was last month or 2 months ago.
Property 60, and that's on that.
And are we getting copies of the testing that's being done, Dwight?
We're still collecting the tests. So once we have the full round, we will send that spreadsheet along. We do that every year. So you've piqued my interest because are you aware of the alley property and the claims they have for appliances? Denny called and reached out to us. We had Dave Philbrick go out and meet with the property owner. They are compiling receipts. And again, that's one of those 50-50 split things.
Yeah, that's the one where they just talked about just
Yeah.
recently.
Yeah.
Okay.
so-
Yeah, I think we heard about it last
It's on
board
8 and
meeting.
11, which is
Yeah.
stuff from the post office.
And we got the Burgess property, you're gonna have some more too. Because there's more stuff failing there,
We've already done some work there.
a lot, and there's more failing.
So the new appliances and water heater stuff that we put in are failing now.
No more faucets.
So if we can get that other property added, would you prefer that done that way, or you just want to resolve the other one?
I think it would be easier to resolve it individually. Then you avoid having to go across 27. And there is also some issues associated with the tanker truck rollover there that may be problematic with the installation of some water lines. You have to upgrade seals and gaskets and the like.
But I thought you just said we did have to cross 27 because.
Would be crossing up further up towards Christie's
Town office.
Right crossing the town hall.
in that general area, right?
Oh, it'll be fun for traffic.
So crossing.
Right, so if we're still crossing, if we still have to cross 27, it's not gonna save us.
Well, they don't have to come all the way. If they're going up there, they're going to come all the way down.
We don't have to cross in a contaminated area.
Because of the tanker trucks.
Unless those properties have become. I'm still gonna come through. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I think what needs to happen is that the board needs to be CC'd on everything. I feel like part of the frustration, Dwight, is that there's a contact person and the contact person changes over time, but we're not privy to the same information, and including those of us that sat on the original thing to draw up the agreement. We're not getting the most updated information. So DOT may be providing it, but it's not getting to all of the folks who need to see it. So I don't know how to do that differently, except to say anything that gets sent to the town manager in Belgrade needs to get CC'd to at least the chair of the select board.
Usually anything that comes through, just like it did with Phil Saucier, I forward everything, so that's just been my practice.
You have, but
You.
see, we're missing pieces here.
Yeah, well, I could go back and do a search on those and see what may have been missed, but
Yeah, because I just, and part of it for me is just that any negotiations, any resolution that the town is going to be paying 50% for, we have no business being in the dark of. None. Because then we can't explain to people what has been done, but they're just going to be paying for it.
Well, Melanie, I know my contacts have been the town manager. I'm assuming that the town manager disseminates that information to others within the community. I make sure I disseminate the information received from the town manager to my colleagues at DOT.
So maybe if we do a
I'll do
search.
a
and
search
then-
on the emails that I find and I'll forward them.
Yeah, that would be good, because then, I want us all to be on the same page every time we're talking and not feel like we're playing catch up and that you're frustrated with us because we don't have all the information we should have. But all right, let's pop down through here. George Seal, we asked him to take a look at this and to offer some suggestions, and he did. So,
Can I just ask one question first, just Dwight, for the editorial comments that are called PT? I'm assuming that that's somebody from DOT?
Yes,
And then there was also a DJ, and those are also comments from DOT.
yes,
Okay.
and who are they?
from our legal group.
George, do you want to weigh in here? So you had some things like under completed actions towards development of the water system on pages 2 and 3. There's a state drinking water program has not yet approved their application. The select board shouldn't sign a contract until it's assured that the well and its location meets with the approval of the DWP and I don't know, sure that the well and its location meets what?
Drinking water program.
We do have preliminary approval for the well. If you recall, we spent about $120,000 and the community split half of that. We went forward and located a viable well. We have preliminary approval. It's been issued from the drinking water program. We have an inspector assigned. At that time, that was back in 2019. There is a 5-year window for that preliminary approval, which sunsets in 2024. So do the math. We got to start yabba dabba doing to build this water system before 2024. So we have preliminary approval. At that time, back in 2019, the decision was made that we would move forward with the final design and the construction. And then the town did not have to pay the 50% for the design or the construction, and that they would operate it. So we can move forward if George wants us to get the final approval. We're going to need a signed agreement from the community first and approval from the town. And then, we can move forward with that. If you want to do it a 50-50 split, it's a little bit unusual, but we can do it. It's kind of putting the cart before the horse. But if that's the way the town wants to move forward, we can. You got to keep in mind the design, which is going to be several $100,000, is by a consulting firm that is experienced in this arena, and then ultimately has to be approved by the drinking water program through their engineers. And so it's a well-established program. It isn't rocket science. It's moving water from point A to point B and making sure we have the proper chemistry to support that.
Oh, George.
So just to be clear, and what was not included in your packet was the preface to part of my email to Denny. Obviously I haven't been privy to your discussions with DOT before this point in time, so I don't know what agreements have been made or not made. I just looked at the contract at face value as a contract for this kind of development. As I noted before, I've been involved in about a dozen of these microsystems. I sat for DEP where Dwight is sitting today. And I know what we only did one municipality, most were water districts, a couple of water associations like Reed Field. Your comments at the last meeting were that you wanted to see if the contract could be made a little clearer, more clear expectations as to what the long-term relationship was going to be with DOT, particularly under the potential for, in the event that that well should get contaminated, whether it be with salt or one of the other potential sources that are in close proximity. the petroleum tank, the two existing salt facilities, of course, and then you have the salt contaminated groundwater that's in close proximity already. With respect to the drinking water program approval, as I noted, those typically come with conditions. Often the most common condition is on the volume of water, that the maximum volume of water you're allowed to pump in a X number of hours. And that, of course, dictates how many service connections you can have. I would guess, given what the pump test found, that that would not be an issue here. But the town needs to know what those conditions are of approval. And since the way the contract was worded, written by DOT, there's no mention of that approval in the section that talks about what's been completed to date. So hence I raise it as an issue. Another common condition of the drinking water program approvals in the projects that I've been involved in are the addition of additional groundwater monitoring wells, particularly in sites like this that are far from ideal, where you have contamination sources in very close proximity to the community drinking water supply. Now, again, this unfortunately wasn't forwarded to you. I should clarify that the contractors that DOT hired are top notch. They're firms that I've hired myself. Both the geophysics and the pump test itself, I find no fault with them. I'm not a hydrogeologist, but they're right in line with the kinds that the DEP had done on a regular basis. The one thing I am a little surprised by is the fact that it wasn't a little bit more robust. Typically, when you're in an area with a lot of groundwater contamination surrounding a site, you put in a fair number of monitoring wells, both in the upper aquifer as well as in the bedrock aquifer, to find the relationship. My recollection is correct, only existing wells were utilized for that purpose. That's not to say that it's not satisfactory. It's to say that it means the risk to that well is a little less well understood than it probably should be. In my opinion, and I'm just basing this on experience.
Well, what we were saying is, once we'd had a chance to see read fields, because I can read the design, but I need a schematic. I need to see what it's going to look like. And my understanding is that there are not monitoring wells that will be part of this project. And I wondered why. And I brought the point up a couple of times. And can you tell me, Dwight, why won't we need monitoring wells up there?
We have not moved forward with getting final approval. We have preliminary approval. There's no need to just, put that cart before the horse right now. I've designed a couple of other smaller systems where it's been hit or miss. We've had some monitoring requirements and others we have not. It all depends on the size of the system. Keep in mind, we've already discussed the fact that once there's approval and move forward, DOT is most likely going to be moved out of that site. So, the concerns associated with the diesel operations go away. And then I think that's why we're chatting about, some type of sunset on our responsibilities, because if we're not in that area storing salt or petroleum, we're looking to move on.
If DOT is still maintaining the roads in that triangle, and those are salt priority roads, there is still contamination coming from DOT, that's straight road salt.
I don't want to get in the weeds here, but obviously there is some contribution from roads. I think if you look at the numbers usually associated with road salt, they're nowhere near the levels we're seeing here. So this is a legacy issue we're dealing with for storage, and unfortunately we've got multiple sites across the state that this is spot on. We see it at other locations.
George?
Just to get
I guess I just want to say, keep in mind, we started this in 2018. We worked collaboratively with the town, and in 2019, we found a source. We're at 2022, and we still haven't resolved. It's 3 years, and we're still trying to resolve some administrative issues. It's not us and them. This isn't DOT against the town. We got an equal share in this with you. Technically, I just want to get clean water to these folks. We're the ones that deal with them. And so if we want to get into the weeds on the administrative stuff, I think that's more for our legal, and Phil can talk with Jim on that stuff. But we're just trying to move this thing along so we can address and correct a situation up there. I'll get off my soapbox.
I mean, the basic issue is this an adequate contract so that the town knows who's going to do what, when, and who's going to pay the cost as you go forward. It has a 10-year life to it. And my personal opinion is that this is inadequate as a contract as it stands. There's just too much that's vague and implied rather than stated. And I understand exactly what Dwight is saying. I've shared his frustrations on other projects myself, but at the end of the day, if it's not in the contract, it's not there. It doesn't exist. I mean, if Dwight retires, if there's a change, as Dan mentioned before, when there's a change in senior management at DOT, there's a change in the Blaine House. If you don't have it in the contract, things change in Augusta because of politics, and I've seen it twice happen to me. So one, it's not a good feeling. Two, because you're reneging on your word. But guess what? If it's not in the contract, it's not in the contract.
Right.
But get back to where we started, and that has to do with the drinking water program approval, preliminary approval. According to DOT's attorneys, that's a simple matter to resolve, and they could just provide it to the town. But I would not move forward with this contract, signing it until such time as you had it. Because if you don't have the regulatory approval and know exactly what it says, where are you?
Right.
As I said, we can do that. We have two different avenues to pursue. One of the agreement is structured right now where if it's a $3 million cost, DOT pays for that entire cost up front. And then the community pays for their maintenance over the life of the system. Or the other option is we split 50-50. So I recall several years ago, the community didn't have the resources to come up with $1 million or $1.5 million to fund the project. And so this is the slant that we move forward to with.
Sounds to me like DOT has the approval. It's just a matter of mailing you the paper. The letter of approval with the conditions on it.
We have preliminary approval from, obviously, George, they got to see the design for the system. And so the design, we got to spend several $100,000 to do that. If we want to move forward and split it 50-50, we can do that. But what we have heard back from the community was they wanted, they didn't have the resources to do that. And so they wanted to work some other arrangement. And so that's where DOT has said, we would fund it. We will build it and you guys operate it.
I'm sorry, Dwight, I wasn't being clear, I don't think. I'm talking about the drinking water program's approval of the drinking water supply well and field, which is a separate matter.
So the preliminary approval right now is we have that. We have a 5-year window to get the engineering and distribution system approved by DHHS.
Right. I'm just talking about the town having in hand the drinking water program's approval for the well, so that they're assured that there is indeed a water supply that has been approved by the state regulators. And so they can see whatever, if any, conditions were placed by the drinking water program on that approval.
There are no conditions right now. We have a PWS number, and that it was sent by an email from Darren Braun. That email was forwarded back in 2019 to the community.
Can you, 2019? Yes, can you reach all the way back to that, Mary?
Jack has his hand up.
These
Just to resend it.
are archived. and then-
Yeah, can we just resend it, Dwight?
Yeah, I'm on vacation this week, so it won't be until next week.
I didn't
So-
say it had to be tomorrow.
Okay. All right.
Okay, Jack,
Well, assuming this goes forward, let's assume for the second that the state builds it and the town takes it over when it's built. Will the town or its qualified representative have a chance, have an opportunity to review and comment on the actual design as it proceeds? Or will the town be expected to take it as it is designed by the state, period?
We have to take it what DHHS tells us has to do. So, I mean, it's not, DOT is not telling you, here's a design. DOT will submit a design to the drinking water program. Their engineers will review it and approve it if we meet the spirit and intent of their rules and regulations.
So the
So
town,
it-
if I understand you correctly, the town will not have the opportunity to comment on the design during the design portion of this.
We can work with your town's engineers. Our engineers can work with your town engineers.
Okay, well, if that's the case, then,
Right.
then there can be discussion.
We want this to be as transparent. I mean, this is 50-50. I mean, you guys are going to be operating it.
Because the design, what's done in the design implies something to do with the maintenance of this, as the quality of the materials, the location of the materials, the size of the storage tank, so forth. And I just wondered if the town will have the opportunity before it's just a given, done deal to comment in these areas.
You can sit in with the meetings with DHHS if you want. I mean, the more the merrier.
Okay, thank you.
Just give me that contact.
Word seal again, just, this is an example of what my comment earlier, you know, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you could take Dwight's word to the bank, but that is not in the contract that the town will have an opportunity to review the design plans. And it has operational and maintenance ramifications. For example, the pump station, what kind of system will be part of the design for communicating to the fire department or whoever is going to be responsible in case the pump breaks down in the middle of the night. Other safety factors of that nature. Or the water utility, depending on who's the actual operator going to be. So anyway, some of this seems kind of minor, but if it's not in the contract, it's not in the contract. And like I said, if Dwight retires next year, you know, a handshake with Dwight, it doesn't cut it.
first,
So are you trying to put this in front of voters in November, or if so, what's your timeline?
That was the plan. The same as the commercial development ordinance.
Same thing. Gonna have to be
time
quick.
to about
So-
six.
So is Phil gonna have time to review this and the ordinance at the same time?
Yeah, I've actually, this is Phil Saucer. I've actually already reviewed it and had a discussion with Jim Billings, who you'll see his comments. So at this point, I mean, I'm not going to speak for the DOT, Dwight's here for that, but I will. The tenor of our conversation was, these are the DOT's comments on George's comments at this point. So they're agreeing to a few of these, not agreeing to others. Sounds like maybe, again, I don't want to put words in Dwight's mouth either. Maybe we could come up with potentially some language here and what we're just talking about in terms of participation. What I was told though, in terms of the design, and Dwight has said that, is that, and this was before my time negotiating this, that was negotiated already. In other words, that the DOT was going to pay the $3 million or whatever it was for the design. The town wasn't going to help pay for that. So that was going to be a task that was taken by DOT, not the town. That's been in the contract for quite some time now. But I am hearing maybe there is some room for some, at least consultation at a minimum, or participation by going to the meetings or something like that, something like that, we can get that in there. But the rest of this was not that far along. I mean, I know there's some more discussions we have. I know Kristen Hebert also responded to Denny, didn't have really any concerns. I think she had one minor one that she wanted to get across. I was okay with the parts that I was asked to review last time. I worked with Jim Billings on that. And so what we're really down to are just the comments that were submitted by George. I think that's where we are right now in terms of this, to go through each of those. But you'll see the comments. I mean, we'll take him at his word, but he said this is kind of where they're at. There's certain things they're not agreeing to at this point, but there's certain things they would agree to. Where he usually writes the words, maybe we can work this out, is the way he puts it. Or this, we can work this out.
Want me to proceed or?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the next area that I made a suggestion on, and this is all very much contingent, and I have not been privy to the past discussions or agreements. So, I'm reviewing this a little out of context, but maybe a lot out of context, but depending on whether or not the select board has decided that you're going to rely on water fees to pay some or much of the service, the operation and maintenance costs. It depends on how you proceed in this contract. If you are going to rely on revenue from water fees from the users or some of the users, then there should be a provision here that specifies how many service agreements you need to for this project to proceed, because there's a tipping point in terms of your revenue stream where you will not generate enough revenue to pay your operation and maintenance costs. Now, on the other hand, if you've decided or will decide or are planning to decide that the town and the town taxpayers are going to pay the entire, in the contract, it's estimated at $36,000 per year. And I guess that source of that is the drinking water program. Operation and maintenance costs, then these issues go away because you're fully subsidizing the user fees to 100%. But if you are going to rely on water service fees, water use fees as part of the revenue stream to cover your operation and maintenance costs, then you need to specify a minimum number of service agreements that you obtain with the potential users. Because I'll tell you right now, not everybody's going to accept this probably. At least that's been my experience. Their well, in my case, their well may have been contaminated with gasoline so that you could, as soon as you open the faucet, it would knock you right over. And they don't want to spend a nickel on clean drinking water. Because a lot of people view drinking water as a freebie, and it isn't. Even if you have your own well, there's still annualized costs.
And just so you know, George, that's what we had actually talked about, is charging people the equivalent of what it would cost them to run their pump, the electricity and everything else.
Right.
Up to X number of gallons of water. And then if you exceeded that, then we'd have a set fee.
Well, that's the way we did it at DEP. We had estimates, don't go by this number because they're way out of date, but we had estimated that the annualized cost of a private well for a typical household of 4 was about $112 a year. And so we subsidized the cost beyond $112 per year. It's a different institutional and legal landscape that DEP had to work under than Dwight has to work under. The laws are considerably different. We have an obligation to make people financially whole. Dwight, and correct me if I'm wrong, you do not. But but that was the concept and very similar to what you just described, Dan.
We have to set it-
So that's a third option. It's not one or the other, but somewhere in between. So my comment about, I make the joke, and this was a joke at DEP, we don't want to build a drinking water system that's the equivalent of the bridge to nowhere.
Right.
Or the Greenville sewage treatment plant is a good example of that. But that, if you're that only is an issue in the contract if you're planning on using water fees as part of your revenue stream for O&M.
So if we have, what do we have, 12 or 13 affected properties? So let's say we get 10, and we're gonna charge them $200 a year. That's $2,000 against a $36,000 bill. And we may get hung up having to get PUC approval on all sorts of things. Is that going to be enough to make it worthwhile charging the fees? I mean, we could limit capacity, that you can only, your capacity, I throw that out as there's no way we're gonna charge folks $3,000 a year. So most of it's gonna be subsidized by the town. So for the little bit that we're going to get, maybe we only get 7 properties. Is that enough for us to go through the billing, all of the things involved in that?
I mean,
And that makes a difference on, I assume, PUC approvals and what we have to
You'll
do
still
for
have,
that.
even if you limit how much water can go to the properties, you're still gonna have to go through PUC. So either way, you gotta go through PUC.
and
So we're-
me as a taxpayer, I mean, they would have an expense regardless, so they still should have an expense regardless. That's my opinion as a taxpayer. I don't want to be footing their bill for their water. Are you gonna foot the bill for my house for me to change my pump and, do my water conditioning?
I understand what you're saying.
That's not.
The cost of sending the water bill and the collecting and all of that, so if we're gonna collect $200 and it costs us $150, that's all I'm saying is at what point's a break-even point? And I don't know what that is, but most of this is gonna be funded by the taxpayers.
Right, you're gonna have to see what these other small entities are charging too. Water districts are charging, or associations work with it all.
And the PUC sets the rates. So
I will point out that to George's point about not capturing everybody, the state well claims process is a little bit different in that the county commissioners actually make the final decision. If someone does not agree with the resolution, if they don't want to be hooked up to resolve it, there is a process they can go through the county commissioners and pursue their well claim through state statute. And so in this case here, we're offering a way to resolve it. I think we're pretty confident that they'll find in our favor that they should be hooking up, and that's the way to resolve the well claim.
Wait, what's the tipping point for DOT? I mean, do we need to have 2/3 of the people agree? But with half, at some.
Well, I guess that's my point is the state law requires the town and the DOT to resolve and provide potable water. So we have to provide potable water or acquire the property. And so that's kind of the where we're at right now. If we can't move this thing along, we're going to have to buy properties. So I just looking forward, we're running out of technical solutions. When we circled back around and looked at costs for ROs, whole house ROs, we're installing a couple of those in southern Maine, and you're looking at anywhere from $60,000 to $80,000 a house, and plus maintenance costs and other sundry issues. So
then you're dumping sand and salt right back into the ground.
you're just it's a mass balance issue, but as we saw with the town, you are concentrating it in certain locations.
The last
I wanted to
time,
just,
oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, just to point out that there is a provision on this, it's just not specific. So if you look, section 5B, it's on page 5 of the contract. It's got entitled Individual Service Lines to Impacted Properties. So it says prior to MDOT solicitation of bids, so before they even solicit bids, MDOT shall secure statements from owners of each impacted property indicate they intend to connect to the water district once operational. They'll grant access rights. If a sufficient number of owners fail to state an intention, the parties reserve the right to forego constructing the distribution center, distribution system, and essentially revisit the agreement and the solutions. So there is something in there. There is not a specific number. You're correct about that, but it does provide an opportunity to review it once DOT has done its work securing these agreements.
And would that be
Or
before?
intentions is what it uses, to secure the intention. Yep.
And Dwight, would that be done before DOT spends all the money on the design and that part of it, or would it be?
So it says
After.
prior to the solicitation of bids.
It's prior to solicitation bids, yeah.
Right.
They've already done the design work before they can solicit the bids. I'm just looking at that.
Obviously, I think we're in communication with these property owners currently. And so, we will continue that dialogue and inform them, as we have all along, that our intentions are to move forward and hook you up with a public water supply. Most of them are well aware of our plans right now, or our desires. We've sent out letters, and we've copied the town on as well, to say this is where we're at.
And are most people receptive?
I think most folks want some resolution. Unfortunately, we tried to resolve one by acquiring a property, and to no avail. It didn't move forward. So I think by and large, just our in conversations and the personalities of the folks that I've known, I think we'll find most of them will come on board.
Jack has his hand up again.
When we talk about cost, just as a point of clarification, are we talking about cost from the well to the property line, or are we talking about cost from the well to the homeowner's tap?
The latter.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, and
So is the next step to have Phil really look at these concerns? What's the next
now,
step? in the
Dwight, I
process?
do want to take a look, under 5, under George's comments, that the town or water utility intends to charge water fees, and water meters will be required in each user's home or business. And the comment from DOT is that we've said we'll pay to connect with everything required, but I know in some of our earlier conversations, the meters on the houses, that I don't recall that being part of it. Because I remember asking that after we had gone to Reedfield, because they said there were meters in the homes.
I would assume meters are going to be installed. That's typical industry standard when you hook up. So we're not trying to do anything out of industry standards.
It'll also be required by the PUC.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
I'm at the point, as long as the lawyer can go through and work out all the comments, from George and everything else. I'm ready.
I think time to move ahead.
George?
Just one personal comment on, not really about the contract, but the project in general. I don't want Dwight or any of you to construe that, because of some of my critical comments regarding the contract, that I'm not in favor of this project. I'm very much in favor of this project. We've all benefited from the roads being salted in this town, and so I have no problem with my tax dollars going to pay for up to and including all the operation maintenance costs that need be to make it happen. Because as far as I'm concerned, everybody in town benefited from the salt pile that was the salt, the cause of and the source of the town's liability.
I didn't get that. I feel like, we asked you on behalf of the town to take a look and see if we were missing something, anything, and you brought up some valid points. So I appreciate that. All right, Phil, do you have anything else for us on this as of tonight?
No, I don't. What I can do is I can go back to Jim Billings. I mean, he's provided his comments, so I think, they've said what they can do. As maybe there's a couple areas here, I think we can maybe get some language that could be acceptable to both parties. There are a couple areas where he said that it's okay, so I'm going to add in those. I'm just going to accept that, for example. So I can bring it back to you with where we're at, with what DOT is saying that okay with, and what we're, getting in, what we can get in. And what date was that again? I know it was the same date you wanted the ordinance, but what do you need it for to get it on the ballot?
August
8th. So it's coming back to you for August 16th. Is it August 16th is the Tuesday?
Okay.
Next meeting.
Yeah, next meeting is the Tuesday, and then.
Does 2 weeks give you enough time, Phil?
Yes. Yep.
And Phil, I'm sure as Jim has outlined to you, it would certainly be a benefit to DOT if we could get a red line strikeout document on the agreement. If you guys could put something together so we could review and at least comment on it.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to talk about that because it's a little bit, I mean, I'll talk to Jim, but what I'm hearing from Jim is no, right? I mean, that's what he's saying. He's saying no on some of these things.
Yep. Yep.
And it seems to be, it's not worth my time to go put red lines if the DOT is just gonna say no. But if there are other parts in
understand.
here where that's right, yeah. But
Yep.
if there's other parts in here where we can work on it, where he's indicated that, then I'm gonna push on that and I'll send the red lines mostly from George's language.
Okay.
So,
Again, what we want is just something from the town so we can continue the dialogue.
Okay, Jack?
I think he just forgot to take his hand down.
Oh. Okay. All right, then I make a motion that we move the contract forward to the town's attorney for his consideration and suggestions and incorporating the amendments that we've discussed this evening. Moved and seconded by Dan and thirded by Carol. All right, is there any further discussion on this one at this point? All right, seeing none. Ricky?
Yep, I will as far as that goes.
Ian?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses.
all right, thanks.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night. Have a good evening. Yeah.
I'm sorry to suck you off on your on your vacation and something. Yeah.
Thanks, Dwight.
Welcome.
All right, Nick, George, thank you very much.
night.
Sorry, appreciate it. All right, next up, new business, road paving budget. Is Jason on?
He's Heather.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right, so I'll take a motion, to open that item.
Second.
Moved by Barbara, seconded by Carol, that is open for discussion. All right, Jason, you're on the hot seat.
Can you hear me?
You can.
Okay, good. So I guess the chip sealing is a big thing to finish that. So to finish the east-west road is going to be $18,867. And to do the Minot Hill Road would be $62,981. With an estimated fuel escalator of $4,012.64. Which puts us over budget $32,329.
Did we lose Phil?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I did forward.
But he
you
already weighed in.
His, yeah, because I forwarded you his comment.
Yeah.
In that
I think
packet.
it's in the packet.
Yeah, it's somewhere here.
Because essentially, didn't he say that even though our warrant article says that we're gonna reduce.
Even
the
though he
scope of
says
it?
that, yeah. And I sent it to him, because I know you can overdraw it by 15% legally, and even though the warrant article says that, he agreed. Here's his, I don't know if it's in the.
Yeah, it's not in the
right
packet, it's
here.
not in the
I
packet, but you
forwarded
sent
it
it-
to
you
you
sent
in
it to us.
email. Yeah, yeah. I didn't.
Here, Melanie, it's not in the packet.
Because the books are already gone. And he reviewed the warrant article, because I sent him everything.
So Jason, where do we have any money to do this?
In road, you call it, Mary, what do you call it?
The road reserve account. We
There,
have
that's what I was looking for.
$315,
$300,000.
$300,000.
Ooh, who's been traveling recently?
Close to 9.
Yeah, so you can pull the 32,000 out of that to finish the job.
I think it's a no-brainer.
I
Yeah,
think so.
let's
too.
do it.
All right, I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Rick
All right.
motion.
Moved by Rick, seconded by Carol. Is there
Okay,
any-
so the other thing is you want to put the warrant article on the November ballot, because we have to ratify it.
Right, so we
regardless.
have to put an article forward.
Okay.
Well, that's,
Let's vote it first.
Is that part of the motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, oh, yes.
Yes.
that's part of the second too.
All right. So if there's no further discussion, Barbara.
Yes.
Carol.
Yes,
Rick.
Yes.
Dan.
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses.
Tell him to have a great day with it, because it's probably his last time.
Yeah, he said he could do it August 16th.
Yeah.
So I asked him. We've already delivered the stone to the state shed, so all the stone's there for both roads. So yeah, anyways.
Yeah,
Make sure that it's all there. Is there $6,000 less?
Yeah, yeah. So. All right,
All right,
Thank
thank you.
you.
Quit overrunning stuff, would you?
yeah. Fuel escalator costs.
yeah.
It's been a heck of a learning curve for us this year.
Yeah,
I want to
All right.
get one of them rigs.
I know, me too.
All right, next up, we have the treasurer's certificate of settlement for 2019, 2020, and 2021 tax years. Take a motion, to open that item.
so moved.
Second,
Moved by Carol, seconded
Seconded by
by Dan, Rick.
Everybody.
Everybody,
Unanimously seconded.
okay. That item is open for discussion.
this is a little different than what I've seen before, isn't it?
These are all personal property accounts, which personal property is hard to collect anyway. And they're all, what this does is this releases Nick from legal liability, because he is obligated by law and not by the town, but by law to collect every penny that is committed to him through personal property and real property. But these have been uncollectible. So they're for 3 different years. One of them was personal property to Carly Carey. This is all public information. Another one was personal property to a company that we are not even sure who that is. Time payment for, we're not sure who that is, but that was 2021. And the other one is, was two-piece. So, and that was 2019. No, that was 2021 too, but two-piece sold to Maine Wood Timber. And that personal property is not paid, so they no longer own it. No, two-piece sold to Hammond Lumber, Hammond Lumber sold. So nobody paid those personal property taxes. I mean, people pay attention to real property, but they don't pay attention to personal property. I don't know why it's printed in the town report every year. But, so anyway, what we will do is have these abated through Robbie when he comes in, if that's what you choose to do.
And did he say that this was the way for us to do this?
Well, it releases him from liability, so the abatements come from, where are they coming from this year? Did we change that in the town report? Is the overlay, That's where that money will come from.
Time Payment Corporation, or Massachusetts, an area business of coast equipment financing company.
We can
I've
have
just never seen
Nick
this.
work on it hard. So it hasn't been being done. He's supposed to do this on all taxes, on real property. You're always supposed to do a settlement. I used to do settlements when I left the town of Belgrade. I was tax collector. And I did a settlement to release me from my legal responsibility because the town could come back after me. Even if it was a period of time, because I didn't do my due diligence in collecting those monies. So this is all that Nick's trying to do, is to release his liability here. But I mean,
Yeah, I
ultimately,
guess I'm thinking, I've never seen it done this way. And I,
we used to do it this
I
way. Now,
remember
it's been a long
years
time.
ago, when I was on the board before, I remember having
Yeah.
this once in a while.
yeah, and I don't know, maybe when I thought it was maybe a discharge, because I remember the building that Hammond's owns now, that was they constructed like cabinets and stuff like that. And they were one of them that I remember we were like, if they're not there anymore, what do we do?
Right.
So,
I think we've
okay.
done I think we've just done it under abatements. And we never saw it
Right,
like
because
this.
I think, right, this goes to abatements from here, so this is gonna come back to us as an abatement.
Right. I don't think we've seen this. I think we've just seen the abatements in the past.
Right, so then what we need to do.
But this is different. This is a release of tax
Liability.
dollars that were to be collected. So abatements are something different. That's if somebody is abated for their property because they were over assessed. So they receive an abatement and that.
Yeah.
But this is different.
Well,
This
because
is
this
releasing,
actually says after this is done, we'll ask Rob Duplessis to abate these personal property taxes.
because, and then he'll do the abatement we'll raise at the next meeting, because that's the process.
Okay, so we need, so I'll make a motion. to need to do them individually. That we agree to hereby discharge. First one is Carla Carey in the amount of $47.81.
I'll second that.
It's moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Rick,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes,
All right, 5 yeses. All right, I make a motion that we agree to hereby discharge Maine Wood and Timber LLC in the amount of $48.58. No. Hold on. 48.58. My amounts are different.
48.58.
4858 is,
But that's not,
that one is not,
Carla Carey actually wasn't the first one. The first one was
4781.
2019, we don't have a
So
name on
Carla
it.
Carey is 4727.
That's in
Oh, wait a sec, that's the
2021.
balance widget. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
hold on.
I'm
So
seeing that too.
4781 is who?
The amounts on the
They're
page,
different
they're
years.
different, yeah, they're different amounts on
Because
these
there's-
pages. than
There's
some
one,
of-
this first one is 4781, is for tax year 2019. 4858 is for tax year 2020. And then the 1827 is for tax year 2021. And that's including Carla Carey.
So that's all of them. That's all three.
So these three are all 2021. And then there are two more.
Oh, right, okay.
The Carla Carey was for the year 2021. For 2019 taxes. I'm sorry, Carla Carey was not. We don't know who 2019 was. Because it doesn't have a name on it.
There. That's all.
Right, but 4781, who? I don't see 4781 anywhere. It's 4727.
Mhm. I know, I
So
see that
should-
too.
But that's on 2021. If you look at it,
This 2021.
2021.
so we don't have the names for 2019 or
Let
2020.
me take that back to
Can
me.
we take this back?
Yeah, let me take it back to me.
I make a motion that we table this, and I'm fine if we do a discharge and an abatement both at the next meeting, if we can do it
Okay,
that way.
yeah. I'm
But it's
good with
gotta
that.
be clear enough so we can decipher it. Okay, so I'm gonna rescind my original motion.
Okay.
Me too.
Okay, so
Okay.
the first and second have been rescinded. All those in favor?
Hey,
Barbara? Carol?
Yes,
Rick?
yep,
Ian?
Yeah,
All right, 5 yeses. Now we'll take a motion to table that item till the next.
so be
meeting.
it.
Moved by Ricky, seconded by Dan. Any further questions? All right, seeing none. Rick?
Yes,
Ian?
yes.
Carol?
yes.
Barbara?
Yes,
All right, let's table.
good.
All right, next up, we have the warrant. I will take a motion to open that item. It's
So be it.
Second,
second.
moved by Rick, seconded by Carol. All right, and it is warrant number 87 in the amount of $1,031,022.82.
I think that's the biggest one we've ever done.
Oh, that's kind of a,
It's a big one.
oh, guacamole. Now, is Jason still here?
Yeah, you gonna ask about that flagger?
Yeah, can we get Jason back?
What was it for?
We paid $877
Right,
for,
that's right.
for
Flagger.
flags.
Flagger search.
He had to go through a company because he could not find anybody to do it, and
So
so
the
Denny was
free
aware of it.
R&D.
It was a flagging company, and Denny signed off on it. But he had to do it because that's the only way he could get flaggers. He couldn't find anybody.
Yeah.
And so there's a special company, and
Okay.
Wow.
I feel like if free ad on Indeed, we could have been able to find somebody to work 15 minutes. It would have
but I
been
think
17
he
bucks. an hour.
couldn't wait either.
And not
It was
only
a
that, you're still gonna
time
be certified.
Yeah,
to
they
be flag.
Yeah.
You can't just hire somebody and say,
Right.
here's a flag.
But just a comment on that. Next time we do hire, I didn't realize a professional company. Next time we hire a professional company to do that, make sure they get outside of their vehicle, do the flagging, not sit in that car, hold the sign and turn the sign
I saw that.
back and forth.
I saw that. I don't know where he smells.
On a very bad.
Sat in the car, and I'm like, oh, well, that's different.
That's when we ought to go back to the company that supplied and go, yeah, we want a discount.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, that's ridiculous. So Belgrade Mechanical Services, so $279 for the oil change and the new skid steer. Do we not get at least one free oil change when we buy a piece of equipment? And how quickly do we have to have the oil changed?
It's breaking on.
It's what?
breaking.
Initial oil, just like a new car. Normally you change it after X number of miles.
Okay. I was like, damn, you'd think that'd be included in something. That first oil change, but,
Only when you try to sell a car.
all right, Center for All Seasons, $6,000 for water treatment. What is that?
Visit Center for All Seasons. Rotary Lakes Fire Station.
It's under Center for All Seasons.
What page is that on now?
That is on page 1, and the check number is 22867.
On the diploma. CFAS water treatment.
Did she code it wrong? My one?
See, yeah. It smells to me.
The plumber.
Huh?
It's
Zero,
all
zero,
under-
zero, zero, two,
Oh,
six,
okay,
three.
okay. I'm just like, I don't see it.
So Bruce, correct me if I'm wrong, so the system that you put into the fire station is the same one that we had originally talked about at the Center for All Seasons that I thought was 13,000?
Center for All Seasons is a bigger, would be a bigger system than what's at the fire station.
Okay, and then the maintenance, I thought it was cost prohibitive because it was what, $6,000 a year to maintain, right?
It's, the maintenance is not on per year, it's on per. So as the testing goes on these uranium systems, once it starts bleeding through the uranium systems, that's when you gotta maintain them. It could be 1 year, it could be 6 years. I got a system in the lakes, it's a very big system. It's been installed since 17, it still doesn't require any rechanging of the media. But the problem we got now, as of about 3 days ago, the federal government just changed the guidelines that this stuff has to be disposed of by a hazardous waste company.
By what?
Hazardous waste company has to be tested, and then if it doesn't, the test doesn't come back properly, it has to be done by a hazardous waste company, and it goes out to Utah. It's nuclear waste. Essentially, uranium is nuclear, so.
Is this
So
lake
you have to
part?
go get nuclear certified?
No, I don't. Basically, what it is when Northeast Labs, it'll be something that Northeast Labs will have to do the testing. So
It's not
what-
Mary's fault.
Huh?
I said it's not Mary's fault.
Okay.
so She didn't code it wrong, but it is 6,000. Do you want to look at it or?
Yeah, well, so it came
That's
out
for
of
the
the
fire
fire account.
Yeah,
and
it came
then
out of Center for
Came
All
out of
Seasons.
Center for All Seasons.
Yeah, I
and it
see
should
that.
be
I've made
fire station.
notation to let Nick know he needs to do a journal entry and change that.
And so what will the maintenance cost be on that system at the fire station?
Fire station, maintenance costs, yearly maintenance costs is just the salt. So you're talking probably $300 a year in salt. I can't give you a maintenance cost on it because I have no idea what that media is gonna cost to dispose of it and what it's gonna cost to replace it. Because that price has, in the last 6 months, the price of that media has gone from, it's gone up probably 200 to 300%.
So this isn't something that we can do the hazardous waste disposal like the Orange Rock landfill or the Augusta landfill does?
Yeah, I think you can. But, no.
Cool.
This is for the lake
Put a
side.
landfill like a house, we just dig a hole.
I know. Just throw it over my stone wall.
So
Sorry.
is that got the same system at the lake station as in the all season?
Center for All Seasons, no, it does not. The Center for All Seasons has what they call an at-point system. That's what you guys as a board decided on going with. And that at-point is just a little spigot on the sink and only produces so many gallons in a day.
So I guess, Bruce, when we talked about that, because when I got the things that there was 8 gallons a day, I was like, that was not what I was picturing when you
That's-
said an under sink system, so.
That's how I
because-
explained it to you guys. I explained to you guys that an at-point system only produces 8 gallons in a 24-hour period. That's how I explained it.
No, because, well, I never heard that. Maybe you explained it to Anthony when we were first talking about it, but I was trying to picture because the Dalton property also has the under sink system. I didn't notice when we were there, there's anything up above, but there's still a sign there says they can't drink the
Yeah, I
water.
noticed that today, and that's in there. I don't know why that sign's there, because there's on the
So,
left, there's a spigot. So 8 when you look at the kitchen sink,
yeah,
on the left-hand side, there's a single spigot, and that should say drinking water,
And how much does that produce a day?
8 gallons.
8 gallons.
All at point systems that are reverse osmosis style, all right?
Yeah.
Want to produce 8 gallons. They go through 250 gallons to produce 8 gallons. Because most of the water goes into the sewer. That's why I'm not a big fan of at point systems. And that's why I very, very strongly suggested for us to put a whole system in.
no, you didn't. You said, Melanie, the cost of this is gonna be this. And then
I-
under the sink
exactly, I
system
said
is
the cost,
$500.
But I
That's what you
said, my recommendation is to get the whole building, because I was concerned about the Center for All Seasons, but at the time, we was in the middle of COVID. And there was no income coming in through the Center for All Seasons, that's why you guys decided to go over that point and later on address it again.
Okay, I have another question.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm trying to find a picture of the sink.
Page 6, Somerset County Treasurer, what's PSAP services? Has something to do with
Is
that.
Public safety.
When you
That's
call
not fire
911, you call
district.
911, they call.
Okay, so we do Somerset and.
We do Somerset, we do
Canada.
state, and
Water.
Waterfall. Okay, I just want to make sure. Because there's also a builder for the Waterfall one.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, 'cause you have 2 answering points in this, so we have the state, and then you have, but basically, most of your cell phones go to Augusta, and then most of your landlines go to Somerset.
Somerset, and then Somerset turns around and calls water, and water dispatches us.
Got it.
That's a
Thank
state
you.
law.
That was my
that
question.
passed a long time ago.
The cleaning, is this a monthly bill or is this the weekly bill or what?
Well, it's gotta be bigger than that.
what is she under?
Didn't we do a yearly contract?
make
I
for
don't know, I
you.
mean, we
Thank
get,
you.
it's saying this isn't a yearly price.
So it looks like it's weekly. $355 for the 6th, $355 for the 13th, the 20th, and
So,
the
Center
27th.
for All Seasons, $1,420 a week to clean.
I think that was a one-time thing that we agreed to,
Oh, they already did the deep cleaning.
they did?
Yeah.
They did the deep cleaning back before Dan started.
But
Because
did
we
we ever pay the, could this be the bill for it? I don't remember seeing the bill.
This is a weekly bill of $355.
So we
for the
pay
last
$700 a week to clean this building?
300,
Town office says
$700.
$355 a week.
This must be bi-weekly.
Yeah, so
Because it's
so
got
this is by the
$700.
month.
This must be 2
13,
weeks.
20, and 27, so she's only supposed to come every 2 weeks.
Or maybe she's only billing us every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's gonna be
Bills
going
every
every 2
2
weeks, 'cause
It's
the
supposed to
town
be every
office
2
says
weeks.
700, Center for All Seasons says 1,420.
That can't be a weekly bill.
She's billing us weekly.
I think that was a deep cleaning.
These are the bills, they're all weekly. For the week of 7/6, for the week of 7/13, for the week of 7/20 and 27. So that's,
So are these all total? So that would technically be for a month.
right, it's for a month.
$2,920.
Okay.
Oh, so this is a monthly bill?
Yeah, it's a month.
Okay.
And then
That's-
it's
four
that's
weeks.
what I was
oh,
asking.
yeah, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Well, I said $355 for those weeks.
For a week.
Right.
So this is, so it's 1420 a month.
Okay. So really, we're
Firehouse
paying
is on.
2,900, so we're paying
35,000 a year.
closely, yeah, I was gonna say
Can we
36,000.
go back and see what the bid was? I don't remember a bid coming in at 35,000 for cleaning,
I don't
because
know.
we never would have said yes.
We
You
could
could've-
hire someone.
You
for
could have
that.
hired a full-time person
Yeah.
for that.
That's
Right.
what we talked
Yeah.
about.
And that's what we were trying to avoid, so.
Well, and we've had some questions, so.
Yeah, it just, it seemed an awful lot of money when I saw this.
And just another foolish question, I don't know if any of you guys can answer it. So for them to get in and out of the alarm system, what, do they have a number assigned to them? Or do they have a renter's a renter member
We
assigned to
use the
them.
renter down to the center. They have a key up here, so they must have code.
One reason is because they did set the alarm off last week.
At the center.
So as the question, they should have a number that says the cleaning service, not a renter,
Oh,
because it makes it very difficult for,
Figure out who.
yeah, who's trying to get in, who's in there, who's.
Yeah, so we need to check that original,
Yeah,
the bid
check
that we,
that.
the RFP that we agreed to. Because 35 grand is, that's way too much for cleaning.
well, it would cost us more than that to hire a full-time person by the time we put benefits and taxes.
Right,
That
but
means
I
I'm
don't-
under
But I
the
would
in my wife's
say-
office, which
I
is the
don't
size
know,
of this. I
seeing
charge
30.
$75 a week.
Well, you better go up.
Now, on page 3, we've got EJ Prescott that we paid for Hillman Road repairs and Gagley and Son that we paid for Depot Road repairs. Are these,
So they both provided different things. I know I asked Nick about those.
So I can tell you, Depot Road, more than likely is the storm drain for the depot, down at the depot fire station. Probably had to get the concrete, Rick probably can say what they have better than I can.
EJ Key was risers,
Yeah.
spray paint, black knit ice gloves. What's the other one?
Yeah.
Oh,
so we paid $1,600 for paint, gloves, and what are risers?
risers, 4 different kinds of risers. Riser ring.
Those are cement things you put on top of catch basins. And so,
Okay,
And so Gagny's was precast grade ring. 4-inch, 24 by 4-inch frame. 24-inch frame of GFI. What's GFI?
All I know is there's a new storm drain at the depot fire station, so I saw
So
on the depot, I know that.
and then. So this was kind of a big question for me. So. We paid. Laura Hudson. For concert from 7/28. And then are we prepaid concerts? Because we have one here for 8/11. So the concert hasn't come up yet, but we're paying ahead on that one.
Aren't we cutting the
one-
check so
so
she
which
gives
one
it
is
to them
that?
that night? and-
Yeah.
Yeah,
we talked about
yeah, that's what we
Cut
decided.
the checks so that they're ready for
Right, we're gonna hold the check, but which one was that, Melanie? So I can
Well, the
look.
same one, same thing on,
Steve Linworth,
but also the concert on
Steve who?
page 5.
Linworth,
Christine Polson.
right, so
All
then,
right, so we're holding that check.
so
Yeah.
so they're not getting the checks ahead of time, right?
No.
But we cut the
Right,
checks.
but
we're
there was
giving them
that
to her so
discussion
she can
about
pay. Yeah,
paying people when you do the job. usually,
Right.
yeah,
We're approving them a forward holding on to the check, and if they don't,
Right.
then
Right.
we keep them.
okay, because I had my questions here, I was like, and then we have, so Christine Poulsen, we have 9/1, so is it 7/19, okay, 7/19/22, 9/1 Village Green Series and 8/4 concert, so we're paying her. I don't have this figured out. So is the $900 that we're paying her, is that for performing at 2 concerts? Because then it looked like there were several people were paying the same amount too for 8/4. So we
Well,
had,
don't we also pay her to set up the
we already did
concerts?
that, we paid her $1,600 or whatever in the last one. We paid her the whole season. $200 a
Is
show.
that for 2 months or 1? Well, no, only 1 month.
Yeah, that was for the whole, it
2 months.
was for,
Okay.
So Christine Paulson,
because
looks
it's
like it says 8/4,
8/4.
450, and then 9/1. 450.
Right, so we
But
pay.
She has a couple of different groups.
I think so. Christine
But-
Coulson and the social club.
So
But she also
8-4's
plays herself.
Christine Coulson.
Right. So 8-4's concert, we have the Maniacs that we have a check cut for $450. We have Christine Poulsen for 8-4 that we're paying her $450 to
There
perform.
must be a mistake on that.
And then we have 9-1, 450
For
for
Christine.
Christine.
So Christine has 2 invoices here. And was it Steve Lynch?
Liz
Steve,
Linwood.
yeah, Steve Winwood was 8-11. But then, so we're paying 2 different people the full amount for 8-4.
For 8-4.
Which I don't recall us ever agreeing to. That's $900 for 2 hours.
This one's supposed to be 811.
Which one?
This one is for Steve.
Yeah, Steve did say, does say
Steve,
8-11 concert.
He's in
And then she has, Christine has 8-4, and then Christine has 9-1.
And the Maniacs have 8-4,
So we're
Under
paying
the-
$900 for
under
that one
the-
day.
the Maniacs. That's also.
It's under the.
It's under the.
Yeah,
In case you're wondering.
Would take me a while.
When does she build out for the month?
I don't see. Under the. That's what it shows up in here.
Look at the
It's
last
after,
page,
it's
you'll see
after
it.
Jason Stevens.
I just saw Jason, but I didn't see. Somerset County.
It should be just before the treasurer of the state of Maine.
Right, there's Somerset County, there's Spectrum, there's Jason. Jason. It says Jackson Gay at the top, so the Maniacs.
The
That's why I
date.
didn't
But
write
does it have a date for the Maniacs?
8-4,
so we are paying $900 for 1 2-hour session,
all right.
which I'm not okay with that. Is anybody else okay with it?
No, I mean, one of those checks.
One of
either
those might-
Christine, or
Alright.
somebody's not gonna get a check. I'm just wondering if they double billed by mistake.
Right,
They sent
well,
the
and
bill,
that's why I
she
was
sent the
kind of,
bill.
that's why I was circling the dates, because she's the one who submitted all the invoices to Dan to bring in for that.
So is all the
And she-
dates covered in August?
I'm wondering if
There's
there's
a date
people
that's
playing.
missing.
There's a date it's missing, I
Right,
think, so
so
I
that
think
only
that's what the
covers
mistake
3
is.
dates.
Right, so it's
So
a
you
date.
get,
But
but the
I
thing
think
is, that's why.
Christine's playing one time herself.
So we have.
Right, but there are
8-4,
two payments for the
For
same date.
Christine.
No, but I'm saying I think the dates may be wrong.
Right.
Well, that's,
One of the
but
dates
she
is-
submitted them like that, because I just checked them against that. That's what they say on the backup.
Because then
So-
hers is for 9/1, but
All right,
then
we'll
I
look
don't see
into
any
it.
for the 18th or the 25th.
So they're not on the town calendars.
Overhead door,
No, we don't put them on the time calendar, but I do when she sends it to me. I put it in
Nope, she
the
has
town
a,
Facebook.
can you look up who's playing on what day?
On Facebook?
Yeah,
It's
Facebook has it.
on town Facebook.
overhead door, Mary. Is that the company, is that the same company that couldn't fix the roll door the first time?
Right, that's for the one that.
Right,
Here, right.
But is that?
But we didn't pay that amount. No, Danny refused to pay it, so we did not pay that 300 plus.
Okay,
Right,
I
so
just wanna
this
make sure
was, right.
So this Thursday, which is the 4th. Wait, are we in August?
Yeah, right.
4th is the Avenue.
And who's the 11th?
How can I easily get the schedule?
So
He usually has a,
Just
there's
one of
one,
those
just the right
texts.
page that has all the names.
Town of Belgrade Facebook.
I am on the
page.
Town of Belgrade Facebook page.
And should have the whole, there is a whole listing, she sent it to me,
Yeah, and I've seen it posted.
yeah. Maybe she'll try to share it.
Belgrade Recreation,
Wonder if
I've
it's
got the
under-
Avenue.
Hmm?
I've got the Avenue, where are the bands playing? That's what this one's on.
Well, we'll get
My
it
phone's in
straightened
the
out.
car.
Bill Caldwell postponed.
Okay, but she probably put that in before that one got postponed last week. No, last week was,
They played at the center
Was
last
supposed
week,
to
They
be
played in
Laura
the center.
Hudson's.
and it was packed.
yeah,
Laura Hudson's
Laura
band,
Hudson.
and then one of the band
Okay, there
members
it is.
in her band got hurt, so she had her other band she played with. at the
Okay,
center.
August 4th is Bishop Avenue, August 11th is Mise Amis.
Well, either way,
Yeah,
somebody submitted a bill wrong, so
We'll look
one of them's
at
not
it.
gonna get
we'll
paid.
just look at it, yeah. If there's a question, we'll just call Christine, and then I'll just send it out in an email and let you guys know, or have Nick send it out, how's that?
Yeah, that would be
Yeah,
good.
because nobody's down here.
'Cause I-
calling me.
I was like, ah.
Okay.
All right. So, all right, so if there's no more questions, we'll take a motion to approve the warrant. Number 87. In the amount of $1,031,022.82. Moved and seconded by Barbara, by Carol. All those in favor, Ricky?
Yes.
Oh, Rick, you didn't have any questions on this one?
No, you asked before I got there.
You did.
I was asking about the flagger. I
Oh,
thought that was a lot of money, but whatever.
yeah, I was like, Indeed's free. All right, so Ricky says yes, Dan?
Yes.
Carol?
Yeah.
Barbara?
Yes,
All right, 5 yeses. Next up, we have town managers report.
Before we get to that, can we take a second? We need to fix that water deal over to the all season, whatever we gotta do. You can't have just 8 gallons a day. That's not even feasible. I don't think. If you guys think it is, fine, but I don't think it is.
I
You
can
got
get,
more
I mean,
people, you got more people there than you do any other building. And we got 8 gallons a minute, something's wrong here.
Well, and I don't think that we ever realized it was 8 gallons a day.
Yeah,
the big thing is when this all took place, it was COVID, the Center for All
nobody was
Seasons was
using it.
closed.
but
That
why did
part-
we do the fire station more? That don't, there's less
Because-
people ever go in there.
Public water source, I believe, was the reasoning for that, right? If I recall.
Maybe.
Right,
But
because.
Can you come up with a price of what it's gonna take to fix it
Yeah.
right over there? Because that's not right.
I just need a copy of the last water test.
Okay. I mean, you guys agree to that?
Makes sense to me.
Well, I mean, it depends on what it's gonna be, because I thought that's why we did.
Well, he can get us a price and then we can talk about it.
Get us a price and then we'll go from there.
Do we have, just some separate, have we gotten any bids back on fixing the Dalton property?
So, can I get to that?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay, so I'll go down to my list. I don't really have a report, but I have a number of updates. So today, Mary Matthew called from the Department of Labor. So it's a mandatory penalty discussion about the abatement forms that were filled out and sent in. And so she wanted town representation, so I'll be there. Dan McKenzie will be there for the fire department. And Kenny Skino, he doesn't know yet, but he's gonna be there too. And Lynn Gilly, who actually put everything together.
Yeah.
So all 4 of us will be meeting on Tuesday, August 16th.
And will Corey have started by then? Should he attend the meeting? even
So-
though he's not?
Yeah, Corey is not, I mean, he knows that there were some safety violations.
we have the manual here for the office. He knows that there are manuals and he knows that it is his job to make sure that everything is filled in those manuals. In all honesty, when she went over the manual with me for this office, I was just like, it's a lot of work. So it's gonna be an ongoing process for him, so.
I just wondered if you should sit in on the meeting so that,
Yeah, well, we have to go in there because they're not coming here, so. I thought that was kind of, Spirit of America awards have, recipients have been called,
and where are they?
Marilou.
So
So
what's it here?
they're framed,
Right, but we have
yes,
to get them to the Center for All Seasons and I have to work Saturday.
right, so they are framed documents. And then 2 people won't be able to make it. We haven't heard back from the rest. So the Butterfields are away at a wedding, so they will not be able to make it. And actually, I had Deb do this because I just had so many other things, so that's the status of where we're at.
So you're going now, right?
As far as I know, my mother wants to go to Andover.
So should we eat some beans before she goes?
All right, so the North Belgrade security system on the food pantry. I'm not sure, why don't we have one on that building itself? Because we had an issue that Bruce got called twice. And one of the food pantry people went in, who was the person that set off the alarm. There was a teapot that had been left on the stove. You know, we don't know for how long, but she could smell. So we know that we need some more
Should have some more, as far as I
smoke
can tell,
detectors up
there's
there.
only smoke detectors in the food pantry part of it. There's nothing else in the rest of the building or CO, no carbon monoxide.
So I'm not sure about that, but there's no security system on the building itself. So normally we could call Seco Security and say, hey, who entered in a code? And that would give us an idea. Was this a renter? Was this, but he can't on the food pantry side tell us who entered the building.
So.
So why is it
Time to
on,
state
we
police.
never had a problem
Don't we
with
have a
people
camera
stealing
up there?
food.
Isn't there a
No,
camera?
There's no camera,
Oh, there's no camera up there.
and there's no security system on the door. So it's a
Because I
little bit
thought-
odd.
Well, because I thought when we cameraed up all the buildings that,
Never did. No.
And my understanding, the food pantry thing, it's a Monday night thing, it's about every 2 weeks. And it's been an ongoing thing for quite some time.
But they did not have, they used to call Chris and say, Chris, it's only us, we set the alarm off. They now have Bruce's telephone number to call him, so he doesn't have to go up there running.
Right. I
They did
guess the
not
state police.
realize that there was an expense to them setting off the alarm every time, and that someone had to go up. And,
Yeah, plus state police, you're tying up.
right, and then.
right, they did not know that, so it has been going off. Anyway, just some food for thought, maybe, come budget time, we want to put a security system.
What
or
you're gonna have to do
that
is you're
one.
probably gonna have to do, because I know they wanted to keep their section separate.
And was it, we didn't do the camera up there because of
Yeah, because of the people,
privacy
yeah.
concerns.
So, I mean, if
We
you're gonna,
never-
if you're
People
gonna,
used to go in over there all the time, through that whole building, we never had concerns of people stealing food or anything like that. And if people are stealing food, they must really need it.
yeah, I'm not sure why.
I don't know
Done that
why
way.
it's
I mean,
on
If they want,
that
if
part.
they want
of-
a separate code for their section,
But then that's two separate
No,
securities.
no, what you can do is they can put in a petition system.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so what happens is you arm one keypad, it arms one area, and then you arm the other keypad and it arms the rest of the area. So
Okay.
there are ways to do it with one system, they just have to add on, unless they have to change the panel or be able to do it, but there's ways to do it.
Come budget time, maybe we'll have Corey build that in then.
I mean, there's ways to do it.
All right.
And did we take any keys back when we put the key box up there? Or they have 5 keys and I'm still a key.
They got the keys, and they wanted to have their own code. Scott brought in all the paperwork, because they want their own code for the lockbox. So we're not gonna have it. We won't know what that code is.
No,
No.
no.
I just,
And actually, I mean, quite honestly, I would like for us to get the keys back. If there's a lockbox there and there's a key, and if the town issues a code so that they can get into the lockbox and get the key, there's no reason that 5 separate people need a key to that building.
well, and
There's
And I-
people in there all the time.
I
Every
mean,
time I go by there.
Draft a letter from the select
I
board
think
saying,
that possibly,
that this is, that,
yeah.
you know, that we appreciate everything that they do.
They never
This
came
is-
in and gave.
Oh,
a
yeah.
very
Oh,
difficult
I've heard,
time
I've had a
to-
couple of
Yeah.
sessions.
Yeah, so I mean, if it keeps it up, then we're just gonna not renew that thing and they have to find somewhere else to go.
All right,
But the
so
town should know what the code is to the lockbox.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, fire department has to know what.
We're
Yeah.
issuing the code, nobody else. So we'll issue the code. The code will be kept.
Do they know how to override it?
that's what
Reset it?
Scott did. He gave them the code. He set it all up. He gave them the code. He brought in all the paperwork on how to set a code. And I asked him why, and, yeah. So,
Yeah, so as long as they have a code and they have a key in the lockbox, then the other keys can come back to the town to be
okay.
given out to renters who are renting the facility or whoever we need them for.
Okay. All right, so Corey, he had 3 hours of OSHA training on Monday, and then he went with Ken to go around and review all the town's facilities. He met today with Scott to review the SIMS program for the cemetery. One question I have, Bruce right now is the security contact. Do you want to move that to Corey?
My only recommendation is let him get his feet wet for a couple weeks. and
I was gonna say, why don't we, maybe September 1st or
Yeah.
something?
That'd be my recommendation, and
Okay.
move me to second from him first, and
Yeah.
that way that way it gives him the opportunity to take time off. There's somebody else to answer the calls. That's, I
Yeah, and
think
we
that's,
still haven't, we've got him set up here, but we don't have him set up at all the other locations yet, so, okay. All right, so just to FYI, the town garage, the side door was unlocked over the weekend. So probably there's no security up there and no cameras either. And there's tools and so maybe we want to think about getting a security system up there.
It was wide open, but the door handle was locked.
Yeah, so I did make a note to a couple of the workers and just say, hey, just remember to just double check.
From the door to the hair clinic.
Moving on, Marie Pelsker was in. She wrote this message and she'd like to have 6 of these signs ordered. She's tired of people walking on her lawn or when they have the farmer's market. Instead of walking on the side of the roads, people walk up on top of the cement banking on
See the
people's
signs.
lawns. And,
everybody's getting their
Yeah, but
lawns
there's not a
rolled.
sidewalk, they'd have to go across the street.
They'd have to go across the street.
So if you park,
But people do, they are walking on everybody's lawns.
Yes.
They've taken off all the grass.
Right.
well, the grass is.
No, I
that's
know.
not- But they've all got wires out that say don't walk here, but. Yeah, someone's not gonna park in front of Tony Uti's house. Go across the street to the sidewalk, walk up to the crosswalk and walk back across.
Well, I think
We
he
can tell
wrote-
them to, but
Right,
there's no crosswalk there to cross with. And otherwise, they walk in the street because there's no sidewalk there.
so I don't know how you want to address that.
Well, if we do it for her, we'd have to do it for everybody on the.
Well, I think she wants 6 signs for that side of the
On
road,
that side
that's
of the
what it
road.
is.
Oh, oh, oh.
The
6
six- the
signs
six-
for that side of the road.
The 6 properties that are right now roped off of homemade signs.
Yeah.
I saw that today and I drove through.
So
I kind
anyway.
of, I kind of.
Oh, it's not just for her, it's for.
It's
Yeah.
for everybody.
She's got their whole property. Don't park here, don't walk here.
Would it make sense to ask the farmer's market to pay for them?
Well,
Since
that's,
they're creating,
They're creating.
I don't mean creating the issue, but the issue was because of them.
I agree to that.
Is it only on Sundays? I mean, there are also events at the. at
Well, that's true.
Seven Lakes hosts events.
Seven
there.
Lakes
It would be the
hosts
same
it,
thing.
Village Inn uses it.
Village Inn. I don't think you can blame it just on the farmer's
No,
market
you
on
can't.
Sunday.
You're right.
I
It's,
don't know, I'm gonna just give that one some thought.
Yeah, why don't we, can we put it on the 7th? Do we just put it on the 17th?
I was gonna say, you're piling up for the 17th, believe it or not, I have quite a few things that.
And what are these little signs that you just stick in the lawn that only stick up that high that people are just gonna step over, or what are
I
they?
don't think so, I think she wants
You just want,
little
like,
signs that,
Like no parking signs.
like no parking signs, please keep off the grass.
All these other people. are
We'll
gonna
need to
want them in
get
front of their house.
Fence on it.
Yeah, everybody down through there is gonna want it.
All right, so we'll put that on August.
They could be like, they could be like yard signs.
She wants to participate. What can they be like?
You know, like the yard signs
signs.
or political signs.
Maybe some that they could put in and take out. I don't know if she'd be happy with that.
I don't know if you want permanent signs or, I don't know.
So
mean, it's
that'd be
just-
cheaper.
It's just in the summertime.
Well, we'd also have to see if,
You're opening a can of worms.
put permanent signs down there.
I know, but she came in and she hand wrote
Talk
that
to the
letter
business group
herself.
on there, see if they'll do it.
Belgrade Business Group, yeah.
All right.
Not really, it's about defunct at this point.
So, for anybody 65 and older that's had a homestead exemption, for the last 10 years, we now have the paperwork for the, property tax stabilization program, which locks your taxes in for, 2023 at the 2022 rate. The state will reimburse the, municipalities for the difference in the revenues loss. So we've been giving out quite a few of those. We've had a lot of interest. We've got to get it on the town Facebook.
Yeah, you have to apply for it every year.
You do have to apply between September 1st and December 1st, but, yeah, so. Hey, and if you're married to someone who's 65.
You qualify?
You
All
qualify.
right, so I'm gonna spread my feelers a little bit further out.
All right.
And you start meeting, so
So I don't know if you want to move anything forward with, like the roof on the Dalton house.
Oh,
But if we wait for that any longer, are we gonna be able to find someone that can get it done?
I thought Denny was soliciting, he was gonna call video.
the roof's leaking very severely.
The roof is leaky.
Yeah, when I was in there during the thunderstorm, it's leaking around the sewer boot, and then it's not just drip, 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 it was like pouring in like a faucet,
probably got a crack in that rubber.
more than likely. And then I wouldn't be surprised if one in the kitchen looking at the boot. It was pouring out, of course, when I was there, but looking at that boot's all caved down in, conserved in.
He did put things out, but he didn't know, did you want to do this as a whole project? He didn't know about the interior, what you wanted on the interior, the work to be done. Do you want it painted? Do you want it
So
wallpapered?
No.
So he didn't put out an RFP. He did put out something for the installation of vinyl siding and the garage doors and that but he didn't send it out. He just drafted it.
Vinyl siding for,
the
The
garage,
garage up
Oh.
here, because that needs to be completed too. So I'm not sure do you want to just wait for, Lorna to come?
I think we need to get quotes because we're losing revenue.
Well, we're gonna be running out of time
I-
too by
I
the
think-
time everything
I think
gets
we need to
done.
put out a bid. Get the roof done.
the
Before we
roof,
start having a building cave in and start having more problems.
Right.
So get that done first.
Well, the thing is some of the materials are there, so we don't want someone to quote a whole project.
it looks like, oh, but I didn't lift the tarp off, maybe Corey can look, but to me, it looks like all that roofing for that building's there.
That's what it looked like when I was
Are we
there.
putting
So
on
maybe
metal
we
roof?
could
But I don't
contact
know.
some local people to
If we
see
need-
if they would be interested in doing it.
They've gotta be insured though, because we
Yeah,
can't,
oh, I
we
know.
can't have anybody up there.
Right,
without
so
So-
you gotta have a certificate of insurance, so.
So as far as the plumbing and heating, there's not really that much that needs to be done. One faucet I could see in the bathroom. Add some baseboard heat in the bathroom, add some heat to the basement.
Yeah, that, because that heater in the bathroom, that's 100 years old, that thing's gotta go.
Yeah, so add baseboard, piece of baseboard in the bathroom, add some heat in the basement. I would recommend putting a heat pump hot water heater and moving it over closer to where the hot water is being used. Right now, the on-demand hot water heater is on the further corner and all your hot water is being used on the other. That's how it was.
I think
Over
we
down
need
a
a
little
new,
bit.
I think we need a new shower and a new toilet in there.
The
That's
shower,
not
believe
like-
it or not, the shower can come clean. That shower's new. That
It
shower,
looks
was-
ugly.
yeah, that shower was installed when Scott was here.
It just needs to be douche.
Yeah, everything, a lot of it's cleaning. It basically needs, like you did, sign out like you did here, it needs to be a deep cleaning. a
And then there's a
perfecting.
lot of stuff, like there's broken doors where.
Outside, there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
Yeah.
There's a lot of rot, there's a lot of work that needs to be done on the outside,
Well, in the
and there's some
base-
wallpaper that probably should go bye-bye.
well, in the-
Yeah.
All the wallpaper needs to go, but their doors, they're broken.
Yeah, there's broken doors and,
And something needs to be addressed, because I almost went face first again down in the basement stairs, but when we're doing that construction, the basement stairs from going down, it's got a lip on it, that needs to be addressed.
yeah, we were talking about those stairs being dangerous.
Well, is that brick facade where they had the wood stove? Is that just fake or is that hiding something? Because I would say take the brick off and redo the floors and paint the place.
That is,
Get rid of the ugly brick.
that's a chimney. That is a chimney.
It is a chimney.
Yep.
But
That used to be a fireplace in there.
So is this something that we can
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah.
deal with now?
We just need
Yeah.
to start getting some estimates and see if we can find
Well,
something.
at
to
least
patch
get the
that
roof
roof.
covered.
Yeah,
And we've got,
and see
We need
what's
to
there
start
for
there.
existing
And we've got-
materials.
maintenance supervisor coming in, so he's gonna have to start putting together a list of stuff.
Yeah,
And
and
the
I told
electrical.
him to take a pad when he left anyway. When he went with Kenny,
Get
so-
Dan McKenzie down there to look at the electrical, and see if there's
see
anything.
if we can do it, at least get that part of
Yeah,
it
I
started.
don't know if he was.
I don't think he's been contacted
All
yet.
right.
When I went, like I said, I'll get my estimate.
Get your estimate in, let's get one from Dan, let's get the roof done, because we gotta get the roof done.
Gotta get the roof done.
The roof, like I said, I feel the roof is, right now, is the most crucial point of it. You know, you got water run down through, how much water is got in there,
Well, because
inside
that
that wall.
basement was already flooded, the sheetrock is cut up like this
Yeah.
all the way around that basement.
That's the other thing I'm gonna put into my quote, is putting in a sub pump. In case the floor drain doesn't work, at least we have an emergency relief, you have a sub pump to take out the water, because that place is flooded 3 times.
Can you put that together so we could have it for the next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. I think we just need, otherwise it's gonna be November, December, and the village
Right.
is gonna sit there, so.
Right.
Yeah, and it's not getting any revenue.
Like I
Have
said,
Dan
cleaning's
get
the
his for
biggest
next
thing,
meeting.
I'd get an estimate from somebody to deep clean that place too.
Right, on a good note, the center received a $300 donation from Victoria and William Falk for the camp to buy sunscreen for the campers. So Dan's gonna purchase it and charge the expense against the revenue, so it'll be a wash. That is it.
Yeah, they're doing that because there was some cancer in their family, some skin cancer.
Oh,
That's why she wanted to do that.
yeah, that was really nice.
Because I was like, I know the kids usually are required to bring their own. And we have some extra. All right, so. We'll take a
Thank you,
motion.
Mary.
Yeah.
Your first town report, your first town meeting.
Report. All right, so there's the warrant, but I also want you to sign, I inserted your harassment agreement in here.
Oh.
Amended this on the front, I know this still needs an overhaul, but we're starting to give these documents out to new employees, so we want to make sure it's, and so there's a signature page for the board.
Thank you.
And then I will call for a 2-minute break between the board meeting and executive session.
So, yeah. I think it's 4 days ago. Because when they did it.
When they did the water.
Yeah, they did it. for the criminal penalty.
Okay.
So I got raw water.
I'll ask them, he may be in tomorrow. I think Wednesday or Thursday.
Don't do that. Those are contagious.
Sorry.
Oh, my daughter calls, I'm still in the meeting, she's like, these people sleep.
Hey, you can start getting more comfortable chairs out here too.
You're here,
Yeah.
I can just grab that.
That's an expense for another year.
Guys, have a good night.
Okay, thank you, take care. Okay, so are we gonna pause recording? Do we wanna
Yes, we're.
exit?
Pause recording.
Pause recording. Pausing recording because we are taking and going into executive session.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, now I'll make the motion, I guess, that will make an adjustment to the office employee pay from $5 an hour for Mary, $2 an hour for Nick, Charlene $1, and Deb $1.
For the months of August and September,
Yes,
2022.
I'll second that.
I want to pay Mary a little more than 5.
No, I'm good with it. I mean, yeah, I'm good with it.
I'd like to pay Mary $7 an hour difference for the month of August. Well, and probably September too, because you're going to be assisting Lorna.
why don't we just give her a raise that she can keep? And we're not gonna take away. Come up with a number that she can work with, because she's gonna be doing a lot more for quite a while.
So you want to raise Mary $6 an hour for now till her next pay raise?
I'm fine with that.
If we're gonna do that, why don't we just make the other ones permanent too, no it is, because we've got to go stack up
Yeah,
raising the pay.
I'm
of these
okay
people
with
in this
that.
town.
I was starting with Mary, but I was like. All right, so
If
would you
we've
like
got
to
them-
rescind your second?
I was in my second.
Would you like to rescind
Yes.
your first, Ricky?
Yes,
You got the $91,000 that we've got enough money to cover this stuff.
All
so
right. So I make a motion that we,
go ahead, you do it. I'll second
for
it.
the town office employees, $6 an hour for the town clerk. Hold on, $2 an hour for the treasurer, and $1 an hour for the 2 town office employees, the clerks, Deb and Charlene that are here currently.
And Mary will stay at the $6 an hour till her next pay raise. Or we're doing all of them.
Yeah, all of them until their next pay raise.
Okay, I'll second that.
All right, moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Barbara?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes,
5 yeses.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Ka-ching. I'll take a motion.
Mary, we
So-
appreciate what you do. So,
Thank you, Rick. Thank you.
At some point, we're gonna have to go through
Huh?
some of the other employees too.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Oh, I will second
I'll
that.
second that. Yeah, we're
All
gonna need
those
to
in
look at
favor?
all of them.
Hey,
Right, halfway
good
through.
night.
Good night.
Night. Have a short drive home.
Yeah. It's gonna be a short
Be
night,
in bed before we get out the door.
maybe.
Okay, good night. I'm turning
Night.
you off.
All right.